Hi, this is Jim, and this is Second Chance, a moped podcast. Welcome, everybody, to Second Chance, a moped podcast. Yes, we're back. We're here, and I already kerfuffled. We had been recording for about 5 minutes, and I realized I hadn't been recording. This is what happens when I take a week off, guys. So that's my commitment. I'm not going to take a week off, or I'm going to try not to. But last week was a really weird deal. So I went down. I made plans to go down to go see a friend and possibly scout some stuff out for future endeavors, we'll say. And I got down there and it started raining, and it was raining. And then I had the week off because it was Thanksgiving last week. So I was like, well, I'll get out Sunday. And I don't know what it is about Kansas City, but like their 50 degrees feels like a Minnesota 60 degrees. I don't know. And yes, I'm Minnesotan talking about the goddamn weather again, but whatever. I love to talk about the weather because it's always on my mind. I don't know, kind of like mopeds. But we got out road, and then I was gonna ride Monday, and then I helped my friend Marie with some of her bikes, and then I was taking a nap, and I was reading an email, and I screwed this up. The timeline before I screwed this up. I got a DM from a friend of mine saying, I gotta send you some parts. You gotta tell me what you think. So I'm like, okay, can we get these overnighted to Marie's? And he's like, yeah, we can. We'll just do this, that. Okay, sweet. So I was just going to be there till Wednesday at this point. And then Marie comes in and tells me, we're going to have a moped Thanksgiving. Okay, so I had to make plans. I had to ask my guests to push back a week, and we made plans. We're going to record at one of the Spicy Boys studio, who does a podcast, a sports podcast, and a few other ones. Dwayne, awesome guy, super nice, totally accommodating. I'm tired, big words, whatever. So it's me, Marie, who's shy as can be when it comes on the microphone. Yes, Marie, I know you listen. I know when you listen, and I know I'm going to get you on here someday. Him, her, and I did a podcast, and it was a different format and how he records versus how I record. And I think I might have erased the whole podcast. So that's why we didn't have a podcast last week. But yeah, I can't thank you guys enough for listening. I got something very interesting happened to me when I got home. I had 2 pieces of mail. One was from Marie, who was just kind of a jokester herself. She sent me a card when I was staying at her house, just saying, it was awesome riding that day. And another one was from the boys, Lucky of Two Smokes Moped Club out of Idaho, I believe. Maybe some of you guys saw the posting on Second Chance Pod, the Instagram account. Thank you. I'm not going to get into what the letter said. Handwritten letter, which is awesome. And that's something I think I got to do. Some people, it's easy to write an email. It means something when people write letters to each other. And you warmed my heart, Two Smokes. That's all I can say. You really warmed my heart with that one. I'm glad I could be a part of your moped journey as well. But enough with the sappy, all that stuff. Don't forget, if you have any questions or have any guests you want to suggest, Second Chance Moped is our Gmail account. Again, secondchancemoped@gmail.com. Second Chance Pod is the Instagram account. And with that being said, I said earlier in my little rambling there, I had to ask our guests to push back a week. And this person had been brought up by a few previous guests about how he had helped them understand mopeds more and just the culture and the scene and what a nice and inviting person he is. So I thought to myself, oh shit, I got to reach out to him then. And of course, him being the rad and nice individual that he is, said, yeah, sure. Just let me know when we can do it. And we're going to do a podcast right now. So why don't I have my guest introduce himself again?
Hello, I am Mike Boyd in Los Angeles.
Hey, Mike, welcome again. So I'll run you through the format again. Here on Second Chance Moped Podcast, we start out what it was like very first time you saw a moped or conceptually remember seeing a moped, and then to your first ride, and kind of your moped journey from there. What it was like, middle part of your journey, and then kind of what it's like today. But first off, let's start out. What's your very first memory of a moped?
Well, when we did the recording before, I feel like I was rambling a little bit. Do you want me to do
No,
that
dude,
one
you
over
did
here?
great.
You
And
like that one?
I was interrupting you just like I just did there. So
Oh, no worries. Well, so in 2006, I was living in Los Angeles. I'm back here again, but I've moved around a lot since then. I had no idea what a moped was at all. No concept. You could have shown me a picture of one. I would not have been able to identify what it was. Um, I had an inkling that I wanted to be a motorcycle rider just because I thought it was cool, but I didn't know how to ride a motorcycle and didn't really know how to go about learning it. So just sort of like this thing I wanted to do eventually.
mhm.
Um, the first mention of a moped, I had a friend in LA that moved to San Francisco, and she said she could help get me a job to move out there. And I was really excited because I wanted to get out of LA.
Yeah.
In an email she sent me one Monday, she had mentioned over the weekend at her like flat in Haight, where she lived with a bunch of other people her age, that a moped gang had shown up and just like been the life of the party, and really just playing dice, drinking beers, making rowdiness. And I was really dismissive about it. I was like, man, there's no such thing as a moped gang. Like, what are you talking about? Like, bunch of dweebs, probably.
We
Just
are, yeah.
I mean, yeah, and come to find out, I'm one too. But I was definitely very dismissive and sort of kind of didn't believe what she was saying or thought it was dumb. Just I don't know why. Closed-minded.
Well,
So
you thought like we all did, bunch of Vespa geeks on
yeah.
scooters, and like, dude, I still look at people. I can still look at people going down the street on like scooters, even or even mopeds. Like, you just look at. I have the eyes through a mopeder, but like if you look at that, we're fucking dorks, and that's
Oh yeah.
okay. Like, we are
Oh,
the nerdiest people ever. That yeah.
in fact, I mean, it's what I love the most about the scene, and it's how I choose most of my bikes. But and now, somewhat, however many years later, I ride scooters all the damn time, as well as mopeds. So, here we are. But yeah, she had sent this email, and I had dismissed it and sort of thought it was funny. I got the job, moved to SF. This is, I think, 2007, but everything's a blur.
Yeah.
I was working in this pretty grueling job, long hours, a lot of hours in a truck, and my coworker was a creature,
Okay.
Travis Duell, creature of the loin. And he would always tell me while we were in the truck, like going to site or coming back, about his amazing adventures over the weekend in San Francisco. And at that time and at that age, I was really shy, didn't make friends very easily, just kind of hung out in the corner with a beer, didn't really know what to do with myself. But Travis was like the opposite, so outgoing. And so he would just regale me with these stories about like, oh man, we went to Kalamazoo and like we were riding mopeds everywhere, and like our gang fought this other gang, but not really fought, but and all this crazy subculture information that I just thought was so fascinating. And he asked me that same question, like, do you know what a moped is? And I said the answer, like, oh, it's like a Vespa, right? Like, which is the answer that everyone gives. And he was like, no, dude, no, check it out. You got to see, like, showed me pictures on it. He had like a flip phone or something. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But he was like, no, check, this is my Magnum that I had. I made it all white. Like, they were well into customizing this stuff, in San Francisco. So I was just sort of taken in by this whole concept of mopeds and the culture and the crew more than the vehicle. So that's kind of how I started. I didn't know how to turn a wrench to save my life. I mean, I worked at a gas station. I could fix a flat tire and easy stuff, but I couldn't work
I
on
think
an
you're probably
engine.
downplaying your knowledge a little bit. I mean, even if you're working at a gas station, because like
I was selling cigarettes. Like, I would maybe patch a tire if like the mechanics were busy, but like, no, I didn't know a carburetor from a cylinder, honestly. Like, was not what I knew.
Yeah.
And really wasn't interested in that kind of stuff at the time. And a lot's changed. But Sacramento rally happened, and I didn't have a moped yet. Still was sort of like new to San Francisco. And Travis said, hey, you should come down in Sacramento. They're having a rally. It's going to be dope. And I believe this was total letdown, the rally, which did not live up to its name.
That's what I was gonna like. You had me for a second. I'm like, oh, it's so you stayed.
It sucked, and I just quit mopeds.
Yeah.
No, the SAC always those lovely bastards. They always name their rallies like just in the most self-deprecating ways, and they're always so great. So that was my first taste. Like I showed up in my Acura or whatever. Like I didn't have a moped. I drove down on a Saturday, so they'd already been there Friday.
Yeah.
And another creature, Sean Newport, was nice enough to like let me doubles on his Magnum and like talk about feeling like a fool. Like two men. I had like a loaner helmet on, like two men on a Magnum, like in downtown Sacramento. Like I was like, this is both thrilling and awesome, but also just so stupid that I fully love it.
Yeah.
Because of those things. Like it is so like dude in a, like some red sports car obviously pulls up next to us, revs, all that shit.
Yeah.
Sacramento people just, hey, what are you,
that
word.
no, dude. I can only imagine, especially in 06 before, like, I understand there's a lot of gentrification going on in Sacramento and everything else, and things a little more grittier back then, we'll say. Like, I can't even imagine, like, and that's that you talk about the red sports car. I love it when people like try to flex on you. It's like, dude, I'm on a fucking moped. Like,
I got like maybe 70 cc's happening with two people on it. Like, look at you.
Like, what the fuck?
It's great.
That shit makes me so happy.
So I just absolutely adored it, and everyone was so nice. The creatures, amazing crew, and we went to parties. Madness happened, and I just was like, "Let me be a part of this." I was ready. Travis sort of like walked me through, like kind of like sped me up on the, oh no, if you're gonna get a moped, like for San Francisco, and like you're gonna want a Magnum, like they're really expensive. I was like, I'm broke. I don't have money.
What were Magnums going for back then? Like, I'm only in the scene like 4 years now, so like I see today I've gotten cheaper, especially like I think there's a thing where like you first start out, you're willing to spend money, and then you get a few bikes, if you will, in the inventory, then you become super cheap and you haggle with everybody else. And like, I got a little bit, just touch little about my story. Like I got 2 Hobbits given to me. So I started varying it out from the gate. So like, I haven't looked back since. And like, you say San Francisco on a Magnum, I'm like I've been out to San Francisco a few times. Like I wouldn't do it. Like I'd be varied all day.
Well, that's a really good point because, he was mostly creatures had a lot of flair, and there was some amazing mechanics in that crew, like doing amazing stuff at the cup races and stuff. But by and large, like it was style and it was like how you looked. I mean, this was, SF, and it was like hipster season, And so he was, it was more about having the Magnum as just sort of like, that's the pinnacle, in his mind, as he explained it to me. And I'm probably not doing him justice. He probably gave me way better advice than that. That's a long time ago. And he's well out of mopeds at this point. But I finally found one in like bumfuck Ohio. I don't even remember what the town was. I found it on like eBay or something.
Of course,
this is how desperate I was, and it was like for $500 or something, and it was a MK2 silver, and I was like, yep, I want it, and I bought it without having any idea how to get it to San Francisco. I was like, let me just pay you, homie, and I will figure it out.
Exactly.
And while this was happening, I was like sort of coming out of my shell a little bit. The creatures were really helping me with that, like house parties all the time, rides, Moped Mondays. I was still like super shy, like didn't know how to like really talk to people. Smoked a lot of cigarettes on the corner, that kind of thing. But they were just so, and man, that was the biggest club back then. There was like almost 50 members at its peak. I mean, this is a big club in a small city. So, they really had a big footprint. And if you hung out with those guys and girls, you always had something to do. You always had someone to talk to. Our forums, because Facebook was kind of stupid back then and MySpace was on its way out. So the forum, like the creature forum, was actually like pretty live. That's like where you'd find a bunch of like secret stuff to do.
Okay. Was this its own independent site? Like I've never heard, like, again, being a noob, is this its own like independent site, or like where was this forum hosted at is my question. Was it like a Yahoo forum group or something? Yeah,
so no, back then, including now, but it's not really used that much, and it depends, it's club by club. But back then, the creatures heavily used because Moped Army, if you're in like a official gang, you get your own forum.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
it's everybody that's in your club, honoraries, everybody that you've
Mhm.
decided is in your club has a little symbol by your name. And at this point in 2020, like who the fuck needs that? There's so many ways to talk to people, but
Yep.
this was so far back. Like there was no WhatsApp, there was no GroupMe, there was no like Facebook Messenger, like none of this
Mhm.
shit. So people were really using the forums to be able to like directly connect with people in the
Yeah,
city that they wanted
texting
to
was
hang out with.
barely a thing. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, yeah. I remember Travis again he had like a sidekick, and all day at work he'd be on the forums just typing away on his big flip keyboard.
Yep.
And I was just like, what do you keep doing on that thing? And he's like, oh man, I found like 6 parties happening tonight, and like we're gonna go to, you know. So I don't even know where I was going with this story, but that's how I got into mopeds.
Communication, dude, exactly.
It was
um,
great. So I was a creature, and that's where I was going with this. I finally got the Magnum because another creature who was had moved out of San Francisco and was living in Elkhart, Joy. A lot of people know her. She's been kind of MIA recently, but Joy was a creature before I was in, but she had moved away before I had become a creature. So I'd met her at the Sacramento rally, and I haven't seen her in many rallies since early on, but she used to work as an RV delivery driver.
awesome.
And she would take RVs from, I believe Elkhart is the right place, and she would drive it to wherever. And she's told me, hey, if I have a route that goes near where this Magnum is in Ohio and is heading out west, I will swing by and deliver it to you.
That's
And you just
so
got to
awesome.
like comp the gas, if anything.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't remember if she actually asked me to do that or not, but
Yeah.
she brought it to my house.
Yeah, that's so
And
moped, man, because like the thing could be leaking. These are probably brand new motorhomes she's delivering. Like, so these are like, even back then, these are like $40,000-$50,000 vehicles that like, we're going to throw this freaking 30-year-old moped in. It's probably got a transmission leak. Fuck it.
dude,
Like, that's so
seriously.
mopeds. I love it. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
the moped community right there.
Absolutely. I mean, Travis was teaching me all that shit on the job too. Like we were devious about the kind of things we'd borrow from work for like parties and for garages and stuff. It was a very much like a scene of like, take what you can get. We're sort of like outsiders and a subculture, and we help each other at all costs. So, again, I don't know, Joy, she'll probably never, I don't think she has ridden a moped in a very long time, but if you ever listen to this, thanks so much for bringing that to me. That was the nicest thing.
I have a way of finding people, and I might have to I already wrote her down. I might have to track Joy down to send her a link for this then.
Yeah, please do, because man, she's great. And I've seen her several, like I said, she was a big rally presence back in those days, and we all miss her. And yeah, it was good stuff.
Yeah. So you get your Magnum. You're learning about mopeds. Like, where's the creature sourcing their parts from at this point? Because you said they're all about like, it sounds like they're more about the. I don't want to sound like an asshole when I say it, but it'll come out wrong. They're about their bikes looking good and clean. Were they into the performance side of it? How was the performance side of it at this point for the creatures and for yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, so creatures generally, and like you mentioned, San Francisco, like a variator would have done much better. And there were several Hobbits and a lot of French bikes. And to be back then, like I just saw a bunch of bikes. Like, what's the difference? I don't know. I don't care.
Exactly.
But there was a whole, they called it Le Resistance, like the whole Frenchy group. And there was a couple Hobbit guys, a guy Hobbit Nate, who just was ripped, man. That guy was so fast. He actually went on to help develop Monday motorbikes.
Awesome.
But so there was a lot of there was a lot of tinkering and a lot of fast stuff happening. So I might have misrepresented the people in the part, because the gang was so large.
Yeah.
The people,
like you're saying, 50 people.
Yeah. So there was so many opportunities to like get to know these people. And so although there was like a very gearhead component of people that would work on bikes and soup them up, and it definitely was like who had the fastest bike was very important. I obviously never did, but there was also a component of people that like didn't necessarily want to do all the wrenching and stuff or know how or were able to, and they were more interested in like the camaraderie, the group, the parties, the rallies, whether you host it or visit, sort of repping the scene and doing that. And that's very much where I fit in San Francisco. But we had like Chris Paz, who like made a bunch of cool stuff back in the early days, before 1977, had such a black eye. You know, I think the first like aftermarket clutch springs for E50s was like Paz did that. And he used to like case match stuff for people. We got our stuff directly from Benji. I mean,
yeah.
Treats was so small. So once I got that Magnum, Jarvis was like, okay, now you got to make it go fast. He's like, here's what you need: Polini, 15 Bing, air filter, and a Homet 6P.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like what all the creatures ran until they like, you know, graduated to Delordo or something.
Yeah.
But he was like, you're a beginner. Trust me. This is the easy stuff.
Yeah. This will get you 40.
Point,
yeah.
Yeah. Get you up the hill. And had a ZA. So like, man, I didn't know shit about mopeds. It's so bad. But I was so, you know, I was really nervous. I was like, okay, what do I do? How do I get these parts? And he was like, oh, we'll just text Benji. So he texted him. We like met him on a street corner, like around from his house.
So awesome.
You know, like that's how it was. He sold out of his apartment early on, and this was all part of this thing that I felt like I was getting like the magic key to. They were like, yeah, you can get parts. You just text this guy. And like, it's like a drug deal.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Like, dude, you're doing shit on street corners and stuff.
Yeah.
I've done stuff on street corners, but it didn't have moped parts involved, but whatever.
Here's your Polini kit, man. Like, I don't know. I mean, it just was so cool. Cause like where else, like at that time, like where the fuck else do you get moped parts?
Yeah.
And bless him. Cause you know, and you and I have spoken about this just on chat, but like what Treats has done and what Benji has done, like I didn't recognize it at the time, but now looking back, it's like, wow, you know, I just got to give, of course, like just so many props to him and all the people that helped him out with Treatland, because having just gotten a glimpse of it in the early days and just sort of his dedication to it and the way he was able to like, I mean, I've seen them move from each warehouse like bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is in San Francisco where like property is not cheap until now they're in like Cerrito or whatever. But
and I can't thank them enough, because like you were saying, Benji did this from the beginning, but Benji's a smart enough businessman to insulate himself with other smart moped people to help him go forward, because as we all know in life, nobody does it by themselves. And that's what's awesome about that whole situation. Like same with everybody else at Dose and Denny's. I mean, it's not just Treats that keep us thriving and alive. And I mean, we all talk about Treats. We all know how great they are, but like we can't, and you know, we all saw the sales go out. I had I'll tell you about my basket incident after the podcast, but we'll get back to your story. So you're doing shady moped deals on street corners with Benji, and you're getting parts.
So here's these boxes of parts in my hands, and I again, like I don't know what these things are. So I'm basically, and I realize how this sounds, and I think this goes into later on like why I treat mopeds the way I do now, and like why I wanted to do Moped Workshop LA and stuff. But it very much was like I was like being led to like here's the done thing, here's the kit you get, and I'm so happy for it, because I would not have known otherwise. I would have been on a stock Magnum that like ran until it needed someone to fix it, and then it would have, you know, I just didn't know what I was doing. So luckily I had at that point met Graham French, who was the captain of the creatures as well. He's a photographer. He would be on site with me while I was working, and he offered, because at that point I was working all the time making a bunch of money, but I had no free time and very little skill. So I was like, look, man, I mean, I'll pay you for your time because I don't have the tools or the knowledge or the space. But I bought these parts. Can you put them on my bike? And he spent, you know, a day with me showing me how to install a Polini meticulously. Like, you know, here's how to chamfer ports, and like none of that stuff meant anything to me at the time, but I paid a lot of attention. You know, you want to pull this cylinder, you want to install one cylinder stud, but for the Homet, not the one on the left, because the pipe angles out. So you want to use like an Allen. You know, he had all these tricks and basically kind of had it all figured out, like knew sort of where to start with the tuning. So we spent a day at his loft workshop that he was like renting out, and he put the kit on and the pipe and the carb. And I remember he took it out downstairs. And again, I had never ridden a motorized two-wheel vehicle in my life. You know, So even like when it was stock, I was like, okay, this first got on it. Like, this is a little intimidating, but oh, I get it. I'm figuring it out. Okay. Like it wasn't natural to me, but I was able to like get it.
Mm-hmm.
When he kicked that Pliny over and it started for the first time, it sounded like just the weed whacker from hell. I was like, whoa, dude. Like, it was like, bah! Like, echoing across the buildings. And I just was like, holy shit. He's like, oh yeah, that sounds great. He's like revving it. And he's on his motorcycle because, you know, the creatures rode everything that they could put their hands on. And he's like, okay, so I think it's pretty good tuned. It's idling, but we'll have to figure it out as we ride. It's like, just follow me. We're going back to the mission. And I was like, well, what? Like, ride it now? And he's like, yeah, just follow me. So he jumps on his motorcycle and just hauls, and he's splitting lanes, as we blessedly can do here in California. And I was like, oh God. And I just tried to follow him. Had never been on a vehicle that fast. And, you know, of course, like what, it's like 45, 50 maybe.
Yeah, but still the first time ever being on something that fast, turning that many RPMs, like I'm jealous of people who have that experience for the first time on a moped. We can talk later, but like my backstory, like I've been on very, very fast vehicles as a youth. And when I got on a moped that went fast, it just felt right. It felt like it had been something I had been missing for 15 years. So
nice.
Yeah.
It's like it had unlocked its potential unless you were back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, that was not my experience whatsoever. My experience was like, what the fuck is this thing? Like, do I trust it? Like, because of course, as he's building this for me, he's like, we do this so it doesn't seize, like a lot can go wrong. Totally factual.
A lot will, not could, will go wrong. That's
exactly.
We're talking about mopeds. I don't care how good you are.
That is a fact. And but that ride back to the mission, I was scared. I tried my best to keep up with him through the lane splitting, but I didn't have the skills yet or like the bravery, I guess, to like really just push it. But you know, I kept up pretty well.
And I'm willing to bet he was fucking with you halfway because he just like, we got this noob. I'm gonna see what the kid can do.
No, he was not babysitting me. He just was like, I have to get back. I'm going.
Yeah.
Follow me if you can.
Yep.
So it was cool. It was really cool. I just felt like a whole new world had opened up. Like, oh shit, now I can go up hills. Now I can go on these Moped Monday rides, because before I sort of would do the meetup and then the ride would leave, and I was like, I know how you guys ride. I can't keep up. And I don't know the city well enough to just get lost. So I would go on a few of them and then just like putter back home when I got separated. But I also knew it was kind of a drag for other people that were just like wanted to have fun. Mm-hmm. So now I was like ready to go on the group rides, and I was, you know, extremely excited. And that was my first bike. I love that bike.
So you got that first bike going. When I haven't asked this question for a bit, but like you got your first bike going, you're ripping. When's the first time you want to quit mopeds then? Because we all have that, like something, what we seem like we think is catastrophic. The bike isn't running right. We can't figure it out. And like, you're just like, I fucking hate this. This is stupid. And you think you know what you're talking about, but you have no fucking clue. Like, when was the first time you wanted to quit mopeds with that bike?
Well, you know, I can count on 2 hands and 2 feet how many times I wanted to quit mopeds. So many damn times, and I have quit a couple times, and always, you know, get dragged back in. But with that particular first time bike, the first dumb mistake I made is I had it in SF, still stock. I heard somebody else ride by. I was like, ooh, now's my chance. Cool, kick it over. Yep. I'm going. It dies. Oh. I'm like sitting there, like looking at it, like, I don't know what to do. The guy comes back. He's like, you know, clicks my fuel petcock to on.
Yeah.
Classic move. I was like, oh, yeah.
I do that at least once a month still to this day. Like, like
it is a classic move. I'm like really good about turning it off when I park it, but I'm not so good about turning it back on when I ride it.
I'm terrible at it all the time, except for when I'm changing jets. And that's usually when it bites me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
but the quit moped part was when I got a scooter. Because I was riding this Magnum around, and you know, I loved it. I wiped out on it a couple of times and did some more mods, small stuff, just like different handlebars and like little things.
Had to do the drop downs.
Not drop downs. It was like a low rise. There was like
Okay.
this nice little low rise that they made, and it felt way more comfortable. You know, I think I switched it to 5 stars because it had snowflakes originally. A couple little things
Good
that I
man.
did to it, and but I had a ZA like I mentioned, and classic idiot, and also there wasn't as much ZA knowledge I think back then, but blew a bearing through the transmission cover.
Okay. Yep. Yeah.
Want to happen. Scored another transmission cover and eventually blew a bearing through that. No, I sheared a bunch of gears and then blew a bearing through it.
Yeah.
So I grenaded 2 ZAs basically with this Polini setup, and then I grenaded the Polini. I finally switched to an E50 before I quit mopeds. I was like, fuck it, I can't. I'm not good. I'm gonna do an E50. This I can figure out maybe, and that was pretty good. Like I didn't destroy it, but I had an opportunity to buy a scooter, a Yamaha Vino, for $300. That was like brand new almost, but it had been hit by a car.
Ooh.
So all the plastics were like damaged, but that was it. It was missing plastics, and the rear brake lever was broken off, and the plastics were busted. And I was like, 300, you say? Because I'm working on a photo gig, like somebody was like, hey, will you buy this off me? Like, I don't think it's safe to ride. And I'm like, oh no, it's safe. Those plastics don't do anything. Those are just fairings. Like, they don't cover the engine or anything. They're just like there to look good. I don't want it anymore. $300. I was like, I'm going to take this.
Yep.
Even if it's a turd. The first time I rode a scooter, I was like, it's so different. It's so different. Not only is it variated, so it wouldn't have been as different for a knowledgeable Hobbit rider or any knowledgeable rider, but for me, it was like, whoa, the response is different. Like it does, but the wheelbase is so short. The wheels are so small. Everything, and it felt like all boaty. Like it just
it's
cushiony.
Yeah, they're different and they're not bad. I ride scooters too. Like I don't care. Like I tell people all the time, I don't care. I bust people's chops all the time about riding scooters or shifty 50s, dude. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's all fun.
Well, I got it as like a gag almost. Like here's another vehicle. I don't have to care about it because it's already broken. It's never going to look good unless I put a bunch of money into it, which I won't do. But look how funny this is. I have a scooter, and of course, being me, I just started loving that thing because it was like, oh wow, it just starts when I want it to, and it doesn't ever die, and it just like. And the lights always work. Like this is amazing.
And you can actually see with the lights at night. Yeah.
The trunk flips up and I can put my helmet inside and close it when I go to the store. Like, holy shit, this is the greatest. And got so much flack because even though it was like ironic to get it, I actually like deeply loved it. And I named it Murder She Rode because I just spray painted it flat black.
Of course you did.
Actually, I think Travis named it that, but I grabbed down to that name and loved it. Coming home, I took it to the bar first just to show it off. The first night I had it, and had a couple drinks. Heading back home up this hill in San Francisco, and
I was gonna say which hill.
Oh God, it wasn't the
that was a joke. I've been there twice. I know there's hills.
One of the many on my way home. This thing was maroon, by the way. Like the plastics that were still around was maroon, and it just looked ugly and dumb and weak, and I loved it for that. I get up to the stoplight. I'm just trying to get home. It starts drizzling, San Francisco style.
Yeah.
So my visor's getting kind of wet, and like the road's getting oily. I'm like, oh wow, another cold, miserable day in San Francisco. I love this place though. And up to my right, here comes a cop car, and I was like, I'm not worried because like I had a couple beers, but I'm not like impaired. At that time, I was very young, so I thought I could get away with everything. The cop, shit you not, revs his fucking engine. Revs it at me. And I turn around, and there's 2 guys in this cop car, and they're looking right at me. And they're revving their fucking engine at this red light. And I was like, Jesus Christ. It's on, motherfucker. Fuck it. So as soon as it turns green, I just fucking throttle it. Because I had been puttering around all day, so I kind of got how the bike worked. And I'm like, obviously I'm quicker off the line, but just by a hair. And they didn't really gun it. They were just fucking with me. So they kind of gunned it half-assed. But then only a little half block later, the light turns red. So I'm like, shit. So I go to grab both brakes, but the rear brake lever is broken. So I grab what I think is both brake levers, but it's just the front. And it has a disc in the front.
Oh,
so I fucking flip it. Oh, God. I endo that motherfucker.
Oh,
Flip the scooter. I go sliding across the ground. The scooter goes sliding way further. The cop turns on his lights.
I was gonna say, did the cops at least stop for you, man? I mean,
they come running out. One goes to the scooter, the other goes to me. Hey, oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay? And they're like kind of embarrassed because they definitely rev their fucking engine at me. But also they're sort of like, is this guy fucking drunk? Like, what is his deal? And I was like, sorry, man, sorry. The rear brake lever is broken. I'm fine. I got up, got to dust myself off. I'm like, no, the rear brake lever is broken. Like it just grabbed the front. And the other cop just goes like, yep, he's right. Like he like wanted like to be vindicated.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, checks out. Okay. They're like,
yeah, they didn't want a fucking paper trail is what they didn't want. Of
course. Yeah. They're like, all right, be safe. Go straight home. And I'm like, yes, sir. That's where I'm going. And what I love about that is like I got an amazing funny story about scooters, and those cops, I guarantee you, talked about how stupid this fucking scooter driver was when they got back to their squad room. Like, you never guess what happened tonight, man. We revved our engine at this guy. Bailed so hard.
Yeah, that's fucking hilarious. I'm glad you came out okay. That's fucking hilarious. Especially, so many people you hear endoing it on disc brakes and like. Yeah,
that's the beauty of the short scooter stance, and like it's really small wheelbase. Like I didn't fall far. Like I had some like hip bruising and like some road rash, but by and large I was okay. And the scooter like it was already thrashed, so it didn't matter at all. Like it didn't do anything to it.
Let me ask you, was it full face or was it like 3/4 shell helmet?
Oh, another good thing that happened was I was indoctrinated always to wear full face.
Yeah.
The creatures were really strict about that. Several of our members in the creatures had missing teeth and broken jaws from not wearing a full face or from wearing like a vintage one.
Yeah. And I bust a lot of people's chops, and I don't care. Like there's a lot of Minnesota nice around here where like they'll just be like, oh, I'll just get in somebody's face, get a fucking full face. Cause like I was in a major accident, and I'll tell everybody I didn't have a full face. How I didn't bust my teeth or anything like that is just another goddamn miracle. But like, wear full face, people. I can't, like, if I didn't have a helmet on that day, I'd be dead. That's a fact. If you see the helmet, like, I'd be dead. How I didn't bust my face open is I still don't know. But yeah, I'm glad you're a preacher of the full face, because
absolutely,
guys, we're never gonna look cool riding mopeds.
No. Well, the workaround the creatures had was like, if you could afford it, and again, by moving there, I had gotten this better job for me anyway. So, and I had nothing to spend it on because I had no free time. So I bought a Simpson Bandit because like that's what all the cool guys wore, and like they, it's like kind of at the time the coolest full face. So I was definitely wearing that. They're kind of garbage helmets for what they cost.
Dude, I was not to talk about me, but I was sponsored by Simpson when I was racing, and I fucking hated those helmets. They all wind buff so bad.
So hard. Yes.
Dude, the RX-8 was the biggest $300 pile of shit ever. Like going quick, I raced go-karts all over. I was racing at a place called Quincy in the Park. Like I was going, they're clocking juniors going 65 in the horseshoe, and that helmet was fucking lifting off my face the whole time. And I don't know how. Dude, of Simpsons might have gotten better. A full face is awesome, but those things wind buff so bad, like
they garbage. They fit a little too loose no matter what size you get. Like they're either like way too tight or they're way too loose. And that whole like Darth Vader chin that they're trying to do to make it look cool. Yeah. The first time I rode it, I wore my Simpson on my motorcycle when I finally got one on the freeway. I looked over my shoulder to the left and I almost fucking broke my neck. Yeah. That shit hit like a wind sail. It was like crack, like just hit the helmet. I was like, whoa. Upgraded to a Shoei and never looked back after that.
Right on. Yeah. So you had that Magnum. What was your second moped then? Like you said, you got a scooter, you did the crash, blah, blah, blah. Like, let's kind of go through your progression of bikes a little bit, my guy.
So scooter was next, and that was like turned into my daily because I wasn't worried about it getting stolen. It always worked. Once I figured the battery out, it always worked. And it just sort of did all the things you'd want in San Francisco. That the Magnum was like the Flash, where it ride it on Moped Monday rides, but hide it in the garage. If you're trying to show off or impress somebody, like I would ride the Magnum because it was fun, still very fun, but it by no means was the fastest bike in San Francisco by any stretch. So I was like, I think I'm a scooter guy. Like, I think I'm a lazy motherfucker that just wants to get to the grocery store and like put the groceries under the seat. but then I finally, well, no, then I bought again on eBay, which I don't know why the fuck I was so into that. I bought like a Maxi 2-speed that had been flooded. Like it had severe water damage.
Okay,
But I
literally
bought
flooded.
yeah, like not carb flooded. Like it
It
was
had
really
been
bad.
underwater, folks.
It looked, yeah, it definitely looked like it had. It was like a discovery under the Mariana Trench or something. It was, they sold it for pretty cheap, and I just told them, hey man, keep the frame, sell that to somebody else, send me the motor and the 5 stars, please.
Mm-hmm.
So we did, and I put those 5 stars on the Magnum, and I was going to build the Maxi. No, I had been bequeathed a frame by somebody. I can't remember. I was going to build a second bike,
Mm-hmm.
but I never got around to it because I didn't have a garage like space. I just had like one slot to fit the Magnum in, but like nowhere to put tools or anything else. And the Creatures had like a couple of like communal garages. Like if you paid a little bit, you could store some stuff and tools, and that's kind of how they were able to like work on their bikes and do all the stuff that they did. But I just sort of I didn't feel like that was anything I needed to do. The next bike that I got was actually for my girlfriend, who I'm still with. So this is way back when.
Yay!
Yeah.
So you got a girlfriend and had mopeds. Interesting, huh?
Yeah, it was an outlier for sure.
Yeah.
She wanted a moped real bad. She used to ride motorcycles when she got her permit when she was 16. She was from Cincinnati, and her parents like, you're not allowed to ride motorcycles anymore. Took her motorcycle away, like made her sign something like, we'll help you pay for school if you promise not to ride a motorcycle.
Oh wow.
We're just worried. They thought, kind of condescending, like she's a great rider, she's better than I am. So she kind of found a loophole. When she moved to San Francisco, she was like, mopeds, I could ride one of these. So we bought from Creature Elliott, it was called the People's Champ, and it was a Moby 50V that was always used as like a loaner for rallies. And he was finally ready to get rid of it. It was great though. It had the 6 stars. It had like some little like 60cc Melosi kit on it or something. Had the Ducati CDI. Just like really cool little things, like a little pipe. But all in all, like it was just like an off the line ripper, hill climber.
Yep.
Maybe topped out at like 3840 because it just like geared wrong. But
it sounds like it was geared for San Francisco.
It was a city bike. It was great. So I helped her buy that, and that sort of became like our bike because I was responsible for kind of maintaining it, which was sort of my foray into getting more mechanical with mopeds. Like once I was going to
say, because you were talking a little bit before, you weren't very mechanical, and you're kind of getting a little more into it. And
yeah, you pick it up. I mean, the Creatures, the things that were fascinating to me was, again, this is all like through like noob eyes. I would watch Creature Elliott. He would break down on a ride, whip out this tiny toolkit. 5 seconds later, he's back going again. Like like the roadside, like these guys were really good. And I just was like, how do you know how to do that? Like, how do you know what's wrong with it? And he's like, I can help show you, but like, it's just, you learn it, and I was so just awestruck by it all and how they were able to do that. And even when I seized, like, I think they helped me back up one time, and the other time they were able to accurately diagnose that I wasn't going anywhere. But I just was so excited about all that stuff. So I started like kind of learning by watching. And again, 1977 had several storefronts back in the day in lots of different cities. And this is when they had the San Francisco storefront. So a lot of Creatures worked there, and I would hang out and drink like Four Locos while they were, Zach and Elliot and Graham and Mike Flynn, Joey, all the dudes were like working on like race bikes or customer bikes. And I would just try to like absorb because I didn't quite know it all. But if I didn't understand something, I would ask. It didn't help because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. But that's sort of how I started, like kind of through osmosis, picking it up and like at least learning the terms, because it's so important. Like very first step, figure out what is the carburetor, what is the intake, what is the cylinder, what is the head. Like figure those things out, understand how the motor is supposed to operate, like the functioning of it, at least is my philosophy. And like once you can kind of wrap your head around why this thing is working and how it's supposed to work, that's when you can start thinking like, oh, okay, I think the timing is off, or maybe it's fouled plug. just because you can kind of diagnose the symptoms when you know why it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
So I started
that's awesome. You can learn like that. Like for myself, I'm the learner that I literally have to take it apart and have it in my hands, and then might ask a question or two, like more the Montessori, like I got to see how this puzzle all fits together. Like, and that's what's awesome about mopeds. There's no wrong way to learn how to do stuff here.
I think your way is actually the most important way and the best way. One of the things Graham told me when I started getting the parts and asking for help to build it, he was like, here's the carburetor, take it home, take it apart. He's like, get a box first, because some stuff might fly everywhere, but like take it apart, every piece, and put it all back together how you had it. And then when you come back in, like, we'll talk. And I did all that. And I sat down, used the special treats tool, like took the whole thing apart. Didn't know what anything was, but I was like, okay, this is supposed to do this for whatever reason. This is supposed to do this. I just saw how the mechanical stuff worked, and that actually did help quite a bit. And we don't need to talk about Moped Workshop, but that was one of the classes we did 2 years ago. Is I brought in a stack of bings. I have like a shit ton of 12 bings, and I made them as complete as I could. And I had like a Shaw as well, and I think I had like maybe a TM24 or something. Brought them all in, put them in little trays, and did the same thing that Graham did for me. Anybody that showed up to the class, I said, today we're taking apart carbs, cleaning them, and putting them back together. And that's what we did. Like, we didn't really talk at first about what each part was. It was more important about taking it apart, having it in your hands, seeing all the little parts and how they interacted. And then you can actually have like a relation to it. Like when you say like, yeah, so the smallest brass bit, like, oh yeah, I remember that. Like, that's the jet. But I agree with you. I think that is the best way to learn mopeds. Like, that.
And I can't thank you enough for doing the LA workshop and being a teacher. Like, there's a new kid around that lives over on my side of the river, and him and I were out riding Sunday, and like, he had the wrong he just had the wrong plug-in for his kit. And I knew that. And I was trying to explain, I'm a terrible teacher because I cannot articulate what is in my brain to get out to tell him how
it's hard.
It's an art form, dude. My mom was a teacher for like 30 years. So like, yeah. So that fucking missed me apparently. Cause like I can do stuff and I can tell you maybe a little bit why, but that's why I have a hard time like teaching people stuff like variation. I understand how to make it work, but I can't tell you how to make it work.
Well, don't beat yourself up about it though. Cause I think like it doesn't come naturally to me at all. And a lot of the classes, Nicole from the Gaskets and Bullies and Mike from the Bullies and I would kind of put our heads together and say like, what's the best way to teach this next week? And we would think about how we learned it. We would think about the resources that we had available to us, and we would think how much time we had available and just try to come up with like what we thought was going to be the best method. And for the first year, I think most of the classes were not that engaging, unfortunately. Because we were learning, it's not natural. So it's hard to explain this stuff because all of us kind of learn it in a different way. And so it's hard to know the most approachable way to present it. So that was kind of always what we were trying to dial in, is like, we're not going to get everybody's full understanding, but how can we get everybody like pretty close? So they're all like on the verge of like really getting this stuff. And I think the second year when we decided to do the full bike rebuild from like disassembly to reassembly is when we kind of, and again, that sounds exactly like what you mentioned, the Montessori method. It's like, let's take this thing apart, clean it, fix what's broken, and put it back together. And that seemed to be, at least from what I could tell, like the most, the one that worked the best, the method that worked the best that we did for teaching.
And just having knowledgeable people there, I'm sure like 90% of it, from at least myself, like learning mopeds, is like doing it myself, but then having a coach, if you will, or a teacher tell me like just the reassuring hand, hey, just do this and try this maybe, and then it'll come back together. And I know I threw his name out to you, like him and I chat a couple times a week. Maze has been awesome for me, just like to at least talk at, and like I generally figure it out. And he's like, dude, you know what you're doing. But we'll get a little more on the, and we will definitely talk about the LA workshop some more. But you said your time in San Francisco, you're learning about how to wrench on stuff because just by necessity. I mean, even, and it's okay if you don't know how in moped world, that's fine. Like, and that's okay to be the person who just, wants to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And that's rad too. You don't have to be. Some people who I know who have been around a long time don't know what the hell they're doing mechanically, and that's okay.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, there's nothing. You can just be a moped person, pay somebody to work on your shit. There's nothing wrong with that. But you're having to learn now because your girlfriend wanted to get a moped. She had the loophole with her parents. You got that Maxi, I believe it was. You said
it was a Mode of Blk 50.
Mode of Blk, yes. Sorry.
Yeah.
So the addiction, the collection is starting to happen.
Oh, I should point out, at this point, I had sold my Magnum.
Okay, how come?
My very first bike. I thought I'd never sell it, and I turned out I'm a cold-hearted bastard and had absolutely none of the attachment I thought. I had gotten a motorcycle.
Okay.
So now I had a scooter, motorcycle, and a moped. And I needed money for a trip I wanted to do. Yeah. And I was just going through things. This is before I met Kristen and stuff. I just sort of was like adrift. And even though I had the creatures, I just felt like nothing was making sense. I think I had quit my job because they told me they were giving me like a raise and a promotion, and they gave it to somebody else. And there was all this backbiting and just, stuff that happens in your mid 20s. But I was like disillusioned by stuff. And maybe I was taking mopeds for granted at that point, because I would ride the scooter or the motorcycle more often. And I needed to make money because I wanted to do this Europe trip because I had like something to prove. And I'd never done one before or really been anywhere but Mexico. So I sold it. Is that why I sold it? Pretty sure that's why. But I got like 15 for it, which is pretty damn good.
Dude,
that's 2009 or 10, something like that.
Yeah, that's going right now, dude. I was gonna say, wow, that's what I was kind
of.
I mean,
it was clean. So. It was like no dents. MK2 hydros and everything in the front. It had 5 stars as well that were silver and super clean, kitted, tuned. Like, it was a very good looking bike. I mean, it was very basic. It wasn't like customized, but it was. If you're just looking for a moped, and by that point I had upgraded the carburetor and several other things, and so it was ripping more than it had been. But I had to sell it. I just felt like it was the right time. And so when Kristen got her moped, I didn't have one. And that's the first time I quit mopeds. Actually quit it. I actually quit them because there was a time that I had no mopeds. But the good thing that happened on that Europe trip was I met the Danish moped gang and hung out with them and just had a fucking blast, learned how to shift. All sorts of crazy shit in Denmark. And when I came back, I was ready. I was ready to regain mopeds at that point.
Fucking Corona, dude. I was supposed to go to Denmark or Holland this year for Red Bull All the Way.
Nice.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I had a bike lined up. I had everything all sorted. I was gonna fucking fly in. I was like, I just got back from Tampa rally, and then I hear this thing called coronavirus. I'm like, I should probably hang on for a second. And then the fucking world ended. So like,
yeah.
So anytime somebody brings that up, I just get a little jealous. Yeah. Fucking Rona. Yeah. But that's all right, dude. I got a feeling 2021, it's going to be the year of the rally, and we're all going to get to see each other again.
Yeah. I think, potentially the latter half of 2021. I mean, I know that when it is possible, it will be such a celebration. And I keep looking forward to that.
Yep.
And I was really impressed by the moped community about how responsible they were. It wasn't really divided into like any kind of faction of like, no, we're still going to go ahead and have the rally. I know there was some small gatherings, which I think were fine. Everyone's wearing a helmet, a mask. Yep. But the big rally, 3-day festival, everyone's hugging, kissing, dancing. Nobody really did that. And it just shows me why I love this community so much. I mean, it didn't matter what people like politically thought. It was about the safety of the community, and they just understood that couldn't happen this year.
Yeah. And I was the worst example of that. Like, I did a road trip this summer where I went and saw people. But dude, I masked up 90% of the time. I mean, especially the beginning of all this, like you see, like it was hard to remember. I mean, I'll be the first. I'm a creature of habit. Like it was hard to remember, but like I can honestly say the last month and a half, 2 months, I am very conscious of wearing a mask. And like prime example, I was at a gas station. I had to go in southern Iowa, and some dad was in there with his 2 kids, and they're breathing all over the pizza. And I was like, well, guess I'm not getting anything to eat today. So like,
No
yeah,
pizza, thanks.
no, I'm the worst example, but
well, individual travel is different, and people have to do whatever they need to do for work and for their lives. But a rally is potentially a very like super spreader type event because you're just enticing so many people in the same place. So I don't have any judgment for you at all, but it's just like I'm really happy that, although I'm obviously amazingly bummed, but
I mean, I canceled my trip to Florida over Thanksgiving because of what's transpired the last 3 weeks. I mean, I don't want to go to fucking Florida. Like, dude, it's a wild weather. It's so fucking scary down there. And I'm so happy my mom is coming back up. She's going to she's going to fly because we as a family felt that was safer. She's going to self-isolate for 14 days and get a test and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm 65. Like, I want to see my mom. I want to make sure she's healthy and safe. So,
that's good.
But enough about Rona, more about you, wrenching. You said you did the European thing. You didn't have a moped for a while. Your girlfriend, she got a moped, kind of got you back into it a little bit, it sounds like.
Yeah, so her getting a moped definitely kind of got me back into it. But the other thing that did it was I decided to move to Austin because Creatures had what we thought at the time was going to be our final rally. There was a lot of things happening within, like, it was a big group.
Oh yeah.
There was a lot of personalities, and there was just some drama, some people growing up, getting out of the scene, some people like having problems with other people. And this is all, I think I talked about on the Andrew Grasso podcast for Moped Monday, but there was just stuff happening in the San Francisco scene. And so the Creatures started kind of like splitting apart and getting smaller. And it was very sad. And I remember going to meetings and being very bummed out about kind of how the family was breaking apart. But we decided we were going to have a big last rally that we called Ceremony. And it was a huge rally, and it was awesome.
Nice.
And
what year was this in?
I want to say Ceremony was in 2009, 2010, probably 10.
Okay.
But I might be wrong.
Yeah.
It's really
loose timeline, dude. Nobody's going to fucking hold you to the coals over this stuff.
One of those years.
It's not to interrupt you, but it's funny. I don't know if Mike's got a bad back right now, but I do. I pulled it. Worst, dumbest way ever. I loaded a moped onto my carrier just fine. And then I went to ratchet strap it down. I heard like 2 pops. And like, so yeah.
Yeah, we're both like stretching on the Zoom call.
Yeah, so nobody can see this, but we're both like old men trying to stretch our backs out. I just loaded up with some vitamin I. So like, 800 milligrams. It was great.
I very much am the quintessential old man with the bad back. I just rearranged my garage today and like did a bunch of dumb shit with bad posture. And like, that's why I'm squirming around so much.
Yeah.
But
Creatures last
after that, at that rally, the Action City Rockers from Austin, ACR, were like the up and coming gang. And those guys were so cool. They came in, they didn't do the vests, and like really vests weren't, at least on the West Coast, they weren't a very big thing when I was into mopeds. Like the Creatures were like neon hipster. We're talking like at our parties, it was like Justice and like techno bands like Justice and early Daft Punk. Like it was dance, it was neon, it was hipster. Like our bikes were flashy and like that kind of shit. It was, and I had been to a couple of Midwest rallies, and I still don't remember seeing like a ton of vests. Like vests have definitely like come as to be like, again, like just kind of part of the scene now. And I think they're great. And I've definitely worn my fair share. But at the time, Action City Rockers all showed up in their black American Apparel denim jackets.
Nice.
And they had the pill logo on the back from Akira, but it was a little fatter. And they were just like so, like they were just like kind of so cohesive as a group.
Yeah.
They're really impressive because they would show up together, they would hang out together. Sam, the captain, was just like kind of one of the most outgoing, outrageous people. Anybody that met him had an opinion about him immediately. And it was a really cool crew. And I met them, I might have met them before ceremony, but I definitely got to know them at ceremony. I lived at the warehouse at the time, and a couple other creatures lived there too. It wasn't like just a creature warehouse, but we would host a lot of the rally parties there. And people like, if mopeders were coming, and Moped Army used to be way better for this too, because it was sort of like the channel you could reach out. But if people that you knew were coming through your town, they would reach out on MA, and you'd like offer to host them even if it wasn't a rally. So I would host like people anytime that they came by at the warehouse. And I ended up having almost all of ACR crash in my room.
Nice. During
the rally, and just was really impressed by those guys, and definitely sort of like looked up to them a little bit, just sort of like, wow, dude, like Creature's amazing gang. It's like family. We have Creature Christmas together. We do White Elephant. Nice. We always have house parties. Like we're really like a family, but this is more like a club. But they were also very tight, but it was a lot more clubby, where they kind of like wore the same stuff, like uniform. It just was a very different like taste. Mm-hmm. And I went to school for film back in the day, and I wasn't working in film in San Francisco, and Austin at the time was like booming for film because they had all those
South by Southwest is probably just getting to be a thing at this point there. And
well, yeah, it was already, I mean, for the locals there, it had been a pretty big thing already. But what was happening was that they had made a bunch of tax breaks for filming, and Robert Rodriguez moved his studio out there. And so a lot of stuff was getting shot in Austin because you could do it for cheap. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people in the gang worked in the film industry out there in Austin, and they were like, dude, Mike, you should move to Austin. We'll set you up. We'll help you find a place to live, and we'll help you get some work. And I decided, like, you know what? That's what I want to do. So I sold my car, sold a bunch of shit, a bunch of records, punk records that I had that were like first presses and stuff like that. Kind of sold all my belongings that were in San Francisco, and I bought a conversion van, like a G20 80s ass motherfucking Chevy.
Nice.
It was fucking dope. And I was like, I'm going to live in this for a little bit to save some money. Then I'm going to drive in this to Austin. I'm going to live there. And I told my girlfriend, Kristen, at the time, or still a girlfriend, but she was in San Francisco at the time, but she was still in school in Cincinnati. So she was working in San Francisco for that term. And then was going to go back to Cincinnati. And I was like, so I'm moving to Austin. And she's like, cool, I'll move with you when I'm out of school. And I was like, let's do it. She's like, and I'll ride with you in the van. So I got her, and again, Travis, the creature, loaded up the van, traded my scooter for another Magnum because I was like, I can't fit the scooter on the van.
No.
So I put Kristen's Motorbicane on it on a back rack, and I traded Matt Waldbelig, who used to be like, he was in the Bombardment Society, TBS from Ohio. Okay. Then he became a creature in San Francisco, and he had this bike that he called Joe Cool, because it had like a picture of Snoopy. Nice. And it's like Joe Cool uniform, and it had like a Charlie Brown stripe on the side, and it was like a mini mag. So it was like a Magnum with a tank, but it had like a skateboard seat, maxi forks, maxi shocks. And he's like, I'll trade you for the scooter. So we did a trade. Stuck it on the back, drove out to Austin in November of 2011. Does that make sense?
Sure.
God, I wish I knew these dates.
Oh, dude, it has to do with my
OCD
making the puzzle fit. Like, that's just me.
I could look it up, but it was either 2010 or 2011 in November. I finally drove out there, did the long haul with Travis and Kristen. We took the long route, saw as much as we could see, and I ended up moving to Austin. And I was like, hey, I want to join ACR. And at this point, they had already been voted into Moped Army as like an official branch. Mm-hmm. And they were like, okay, well, I get that you were a creature for several years, and I get that, you technically helped to vote us into Moped Army, but we do prospects. Yep. So you got a prospect. And I was like, that sounds fair. So I was a prospect in Austin, and that was just a whole new chapter of mopeds for me, because I basically, like, I had ended my San Francisco chapter, sold my San Francisco bike, really wasn't doing a lot of stuff moped wise, but still with my creature crew. But we had done the final rally. We thought was like kind of our final rally. It turned out not to be the final creature rally, but and part of being a prospect was I couldn't be in two gangs. So I had to resign from being a creature and start prospecting for ACR. So I was like, this is a good decision. I'm going to do this. And yeah, so Austin was great, because if you've ever been out there, Lester has a shop, Austin Mopeds. Okay. Lester's one of the captains of the ACR. And I think it's the only moped shop in Austin. It was then. And that was another chance for me to learn a lot about wrenching on mopeds, because I
hear he's a really good teacher too. So
he is. He's very patient, very funny. He's going to hate for saying it, but he's very wise. I mean, honestly, I did more partying with Lester than I did wrenching. Like, the dude's a fucking party animal, and every motherfucker in Austin at the time that I moved there, like, knew that guy. Like, any bar we would go to, he would be like, let me talk to the door guy. And like, we would just get to the front of the line. It was insane.
He's that cool guy that, yeah.
Dude, he's not only, he's cool, he's debonair, he's like mysterious. He did it all. Yeah. Their gang was so cool and they were so tight. And I really got along with the whole club. And I learned a lot about mopeds, and I tried to start working in film, but you know, I was still like kind of a young dude. I've always been like younger than my age, at least like professionally, like not really great at getting a career going. I'm just like easily distracted. And at the time I was much more interested in socializing, meeting people, learning the city. So I definitely like, you know, maybe passed by a couple opportunities that I had to get better employment because I was too busy, like staying up all night, meeting people and partying and having fun. And I do regret that, but at the same time I had a blast in Austin.
Yeah, dude.
Such a blast. And I only ended up spending a year there, like a calendar year, basically.
Oh, wow.
Because the first thing I learned was, they have real seasons.
Yeah.
So I was living in my van in San Francisco and like, a little cold, a little warm, no big deal. I moved to Austin in November. A couple weeks later, I woke up, my memory foam pillow had frozen solid. That's in awesome. The van. And I was like, physically shivering. I was like, this is not going to work. So I had to find a place to live. Excuse me. I had to, and ACR helped me with all of that stuff. They were super cool. And they were very, club-wise, it was like meetings, take votes on things. It was a lot more regimented than the creatures were. Creatures were like kind of group decision. Meetings were mostly just like hangout parties and food stuff. But they decided to throw a rally while I was there. And I got like, I didn't know this about myself, but at the time anyway, I got like a little bit frustrated because things weren't going how I had thought. And I was kind of annoyed at being back at the bottom of the barrel as like a prospect. And I was like, I want to do more for this rally. I want to like participate more. I'm used to being like a full-fledged member of a club and for like many years. And I'm having a hard time, you know, swallowing my pride and being a prospect. Cause like, I feel like not when it comes to wrenching, but definitely when it comes to like clubs and riding and rallies. Like at that point I had racked up like 10 rallies under my name all across everywhere. But I was going, you know, I would fly out. I would go to as many rallies as I possibly could.
You didn't want to be driving the struggle bus is what you're saying.
Well, that's the funny thing is I actually love driving the struggle bus.
It's some of it, dude. I've been in there fucking, and I'm a guy that doesn't drink or do drugs. And like, dude, the struggle bus is fucking awesome. And I met some of the most rad people in mopeds. Like, I'm almost tempted, dude. I'm almost tempted to just show up to rallies, a few of them next year, flying, just riding the struggle bus the whole time.
It has been done, and it is a definite rally path. It is a good one, and I fully vouch for it. In fact, that was basically my role during Pinball Run 3 because I broke down so early. That's what I was. That was the struggle bus for that whole route. But
we'll get to the pinball.
pinball.
Dude, I love the story behind Pinball 3. At least Rob Burrito's like limo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, yes.
But Austin, mopeds, yeah.
Long story short, I kind of threw a little bit of a tantrum because I was a little depressed, and it was sort of a culture shock for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't quit ACR, but I basically was like, man, like I don't like this prospect shit that you're making me do. Da 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 da. So for the rally, I kind of wasn't around. Like I showed up, I did a little bit of riding. My girlfriend had bought another scooter. Kristen at that point had moved in with me. She bought like a Honda Elite 80 that I got to wrench on, and I learned like how to. It was like non-running, and I had to like rewire it. I had to do a bunch, and it was great.
Scooter people are nuts like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was, and still working on her 50V because we had brought it with us. Still having my Magnum. I was doing a lot more wrenching there than I was doing in San Francisco. I think because I had more time on my hands and more space, and the shop to help me out and like kind of show me what I was doing wrong. But when they had the rally, I was, I'm ashamed of it, but I was kind of being a little bitch. And I definitely went and partied and had fun, but I wasn't like prospecting during the party because I thought like it was beneath me for some reason. And
and that shows the maturity you have right now, Mike, to at least acknowledge like, dude, I was an asshole. And like, I think we all go through that at some point in life, or even in the moped scenes. Like I can say for myself, I've been aggressively petty, we'll say at times. And like, yeah, but dude, it's fucking the human condition. So like we all have our moments, and like, and obviously people in the moped community have forgiven you for that moment in time. And like, that's a great thing about the moped community. Unless you're an absolute scumbag, and even half the time they will still forgive you.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. And I think because for me anyway, I think a lot of what mopeds is it is about learning. Learning mopeds, like learning how to ride, but it also like you kind of learn more about yourself, and people get into it typically at an age where you are doing that, and like you're kind of figuring yourself out, and just by virtue of that, those times coinciding, mopeds really help you, or can help you, kind of be a better person. That sounds really cliche, but like it can help you sort of figure things out for yourself, like that aren't just about tuning your carburetor, kind of more about self-sufficiency or learning how to ask for help when you need it. It gives a lot of opportunities for personal growth, which I think is something that I definitely did not notice at the time, but have been able to like reflect on since and think that it was really important. So my mea culpa for Austin.
I totally identify with that. Like, So Austin, Brad.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like my apology for Austin was like, sorry, I acted like that. They know, because we had that was my first foray into group me, and they called it teen chat, which I thought was hilarious. And your teen chat would be buzzing like all fucking night long. You're like, God, my phone, I gotta silence this. But it was like, hey, we're at this bar. Like, it's such a great time. I fucking loved Austin. And it was actually the first time I saw a moped catch on fire and blow up. But also I finally like made my apologies after the rally, and I didn't do anything bad at the rally. I mean, got drunk, but I just sort of wasn't doing what they wanted me to do. So we sort of had to talk about it all. And then that December, or maybe it must have been that November. It was cold. I don't remember when it was. We had a holiday party.
How cold does it get in Austin? Like, dude, Texas?
When I went, it was record-breaking heat and record-breaking cold. I was like, why the year that I'm here from California? I'm a delicate flower.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Like this, I cannot abide by this temperature change. It was the first year. I mean, not the first year. It was one of the few years where there was like snow a couple days for Austin. That's like big. And then in the summer, it was like triple digits for a whole week or two. I was trying to shoot a film at the time. Like the microphones that we were trying to tape to people were just sliding off. Like I had to put the camera, because we were using DSLRs. We had two bodies, and I had to put them in the freezer because they were overheating.
Wow.
Just to keep them cool until I could swap bodies again. It was nuts. But they surprised me at that party, and they were like, Boyd, come out here. And I came outside, and they were all like lined up in the front yard in this suburban neighborhood. And Sam was like, all right, dude, handed me a helmet. He's like, I want you to take off all your clothes. I want you to put on this helmet. You can keep your shoes on. You can cover your privates, but I want you to run it into the street, and I want you to run back with this helmet on. And I was like, is this hazing? But like, I don't know. I kind of love that kind of shit, like that initiation shit. You know, it's kind of fun. So I was like, you know what? I got no shame. Like, pants off, shirts off, underwear's off, shoes are on. Put on this helmet. Got a tinted visor, so it's hard to see. So I run. It's at night, and so I'm running down at the end of the cul-de-sac or whatever. I turn back around. They're like, all right, when we say go, you got to run to us. And I was like, is this okay?
Yeah.
Then I see all these lighters flicking, and I start to go, and I start running, and suddenly all these fireworks start shooting at me.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And they were like Roman candles, and some of them were bouncy. So it was a little bit more dangerous than they thought it was going to be. Cause I heard someone going like, oh shit, these are too big. And they were like hitting the street in front of me, like bouncing so close. And like, I got why they let me put the helmet on, cause it was like eye protection. So I'm like holding on to my junk for dear life, just like running as fast as I can as these things like are just coming right at me and like rebounding. And, you know, none of them hit me because I think nobody was aiming at my torso.
Yeah. You obviously didn't have real assholes then, because I would have totally been aiming at you, but whatever.
Dude, I think once you had seen the first one go off, you might not have.
I've been in Roman candle wars before, dude. Don't worry. Like, not nude ones, but dude, rednecks.
These ones were... Yeah, I don't know if they had like mortars that they were shooting sideways or what it was, because they were big. But they were kind to me, and I didn't get hit, but I was thrilled. And I was like, I got to the finish line or whatnot, and they handed me my patch. And for the longest time, that was my MA profile picture. It was like me standing there naked with the patch over my junk.
Nice.
It's like with the biggest smile on my face, because they were like, all right, Boyd, like you've been kind of a dick about the prospect thing, but you're good people, and like you're in, or something to that effect. So it all worked out in the end, and I was super happy to be in Austin, and I was super happy to be in ACR, and I only got to represent them at a couple rallies before, just because of like financial reasons. Namely, I couldn't get any work. Like I was doing really odd jobs out there. I had to move back to California, but I stayed in ACR for as long as I possibly could, because I love the fucking logo. I love the dudes and girls in that club. Like just so nice, so close. I had the most fun at punk shows and dance parties out there. It was such a difference from the Creatures. And I really respected what they were doing with the club. And the thing is, like all moped clubs, with the minor exception of Mosquito Fleet, all moped clubs eventually putter out to some degree, especially if they don't really prospect heavily. It's one thing I noticed. You know, if you're not getting like a steady influx of new younger members and like allowing them to kind of have like their own sort of generations, so to speak, it can really, as people start buying houses, getting older, getting married, getting jobs that don't allow them to do what they used to do, getting health problems, all these things happen to all of us. You know, moped clubs can die, and they should, unless they really want to be like an institution, in which case they really need to like heavily prospect. So that's not to put a sentence on ACR, but like, to me, that is kind of what is going on with them. Like they're still an MA official branch. They haven't been retired yet, but I know that only a couple members are really kind of active. Like Noah in Houston is still like riding mopeds with like all the Magnetos dudes. The Shanks have come up pretty heavy in Austin as like the new Austin gang.
Yep.
And I applaud that. I think there needed to be a vacuum so that they come in and like take over. And I know that ACR is still really tight as a crew, but mopeds are not the glue that holds them together, so to speak. It's more of like a really close group of friends that still stay in touch, mostly still live in Austin, but mopeds are not really a big deal or a big part of it anymore. I mean, Lester still has the shop and those kind of things. So that brings me on to the third gang that I joined, because I am apparently just a little gang Like,
we both want to say it, but I don't think we're gonna say it.
well, I'm trying to think of like an old timey slang term for it, but like, yeah, I have been in too many gangs, and I have been called, I've been called a gang whore, and I'll take it because honestly, like I move around a lot. So
well, it's something to be said, dude, that multiple clubs or gangs want you to be a part of their fold. I mean, so there is something to be said about that versus like nobody wants you in your club.
True. And I do feel blessed, although I feel like the creatures did it out of pity. The ACR did it out of like, okay, fine, man, like you get this. And the Blk is the club I'm in now because they're just nationwide. They've decided that they are not going to be, a while back they decided they're not going to be just Denver. They got the RVA chapter. They've got like a East Bay chapter, which is kind of like the treaty guys out there. And I'm, I think, the only LA member, but I've definitely been able, since I've been inducted into Blk, I've been able to like meet up with a few of the other members that have come down to LA and hang out with them and give them loaner bikes to ride and stuff like that. So
how did that all come to Blk's? I feel like an outsider to a point where like, how did that, like, I know I rode with Jason. Jason's really super nice.
oh, he's great.
Moped Monday. Like, I'm still feel bad. I locked him out of his house when I was in Richmond. Yeah, him and Aaron handled it pretty well. Like, I come from Minnesota. We have the AC on in the summer. We shut our doors. Sorry. Yep. Like Jason's super rad. All the things he's done for my podcast, like I can't thank Jason enough. Jason and I know Thomas Rebel Rouser, him and Ashley, like, and all the RVA crew, like. That's another great city to go ride in if anybody gets the opportunity. Like, super.
Go to Richmond, ride there with all the crews, meet those guys, go see King Pat at the Lost Bowl. It's it's a great city. Yeah.
And I don't know what it is about the South, and tell me if LA does this. They like to ride mopeds in cemeteries. Now, I don't know what it is, but like, because
you guys have more cemeteries? Is it like all the Civil War
I'm in Minnesota, dude. Like, we don't go riding in cemeteries. Like, my youth, we spent freaking, I was burying people all the time. I don't go to cemeteries unless I'm going to a funeral. Like, I went to Richmond. They took me through the Hollywood Cemetery, which is cool. Don't get me wrong. It's got a great overlook of the city. But then I went to Columbia, and then Charlie Buzzard took me through a cemetery that Moolah and another wrestler are buried in. I don't know. Yeah. And
that's weird.
Yeah. I think Conan wanted to bring me to a cemetery once. I don't know. So like, it must be a Southern thing.
My guess is there's like a lot of parkland set aside for like Civil War burials, but
I got nothing. I love all those people. Don't get me wrong, but cemeteries freak me out.
The Woolly Bullies here in LA do occasionally do a cemetery ride ish. Like, it's not just in the cemetery, but I think occasionally they hit them up for they used to do Night of the Living Pet all the time. So that was kind of their main rally, big ride thing. So they would definitely like just to make it spooky.
Yep.
LA is weird. Their cemeteries, like, you can't really ride through them. They're, there's like Hollywood Forever Cemetery. You can take a picnic basket and pay a fee and watch a movie there, but you can't ride your mopeds through it.
No, dude. When I come out to LA, I'm not going to go fucking hang out in a cemetery. I probably, again.
Oh, they're beautiful, but yeah.
Hard pass. I get creeped out real easy like that. I won't ever go back to Key West for that reason. Anyways, back to you and prospecting Blk. How did that all come to be? Like,
well, Blk has, and I might be getting this wrong, so any Blkers listening to this, you probably don't even call yourselves Blkers, so that's how much I'm getting this wrong. But
yeah,
during Pinball Run 3, I spent a lot of time on their bus, and ACR and Hot and Ready's and Blk were the trifecta back in the day. Like, we were always like, they were the three gangs that had kind of joined at the same time, and they were the three kind of like gritty, punkier, festier gangs. So they formed what's called the trifecta back when all three gangs were very active. So I already knew a lot of members of Blk, and I had gone to Black Moon Rising in Denver. That's the only Blk rally I went to, but God, that was a great rally. Oh my God. It was a choose your own adventure rally with like a scavenger hunt card, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of doing, the regimented, here's the city ride, here's the countryside ride, here's the party, it was like, hey, jump on your bikes, do all of these things that we've listed in whatever order you want. But at each one, it was like a station. So no matter what time of day you showed up, there was like some people there. And one of them was like, get cut in as a puddle cutter and take shots. And like, that was one. And get a tattoo. And I got this little circlip tattoo. That was one of them.
Nice.
It was just such a like novel rally idea. And it really allowed you to sort of get to know the city in a way that rallies definitely allow you to get to know new cities and definitely new people, but rarely on your own time unless you like decide to do it. And this was sort of a way to do that where you weren't being shepherded around in such a way, like on a ride, you were actually being like encouraged to explore the city. So I thought it was cool. I met a bunch more black guys there. And then on Pinball Run 3, Derek, who's one of the captains, was like, yeah, man, like you're good people, Boyd. Like we're recruiting black bad boys club. And it's like, what they kind of do is they kind of pick sort of the cast offs from groups that used to be really active. And if there's like a couple members that remain active while the group itself is sort of kind of subsiding, then they'll pick those lost souls up and they'll give them a club to be in no matter where they live. So that was my interpretation of it anyway. They might correct me on that, but I was really honored to be asked and sort of like, I've always respected that club. I remember when they were trying to be MA official, and they said in their application that the way that they chose new members back then was first, like your bike had to be all black. And secondly, they would have like a race basically. And like only the winner or like first and second place or something would like be allowed to like be in black. So they had like pitting people off. Like sounded awesome.
Yeah.
Obviously that's no longer, this was so many years ago. Now it's sort of, I think it's just like more of like a nationwide organization. And honestly, I don't really get to do much for Black. I get, I'm on the group meet chat with them. We thought we were having a rally this year called Wet, which is going to be a jet ski rally.
Mm-hmm.
Very excited about that. It is the reason that I finally said like, okay, I am going to leave ACR and join it. Cause I wanted to be a wet. Like I was like, I want to get a life vest and put a patch on it. And I want to be like the smokers in Waterworld.
Yes.
And just like, that's all. I was like, this is the best. I want to do this. And then Corona, it's fucking Corona.
I saw Jason's cut, dude. He had wet cut down and he had his life jacket. Like he had it in Florida. Like this is like,
he actually went to a wet. Yeah.
This is literally weeks before Rona shut the world down. And like, I was just laughing my ass off because he was rocking the lifeguard fanny pack and everything, dude. It was great.
So the idea was that like all anyone that was in Black that would go to any rallies was going to like represent wet for that year. And I just fucking love stupid shit like that. Like anytime you can, our whole gang name is changing and now we're jet skis and because it's like, it cracks me up. So that's what finally made me, and also just knowing that I'm not moving back to Austin. I just know that. And I know that I'll always be friends with ACR. All the members of them can hit me up for anything at any time, but I'm never going to live in that city. And I don't really think that mopeds are going to be on their horizon again for a long time. So I was looking for the next thing because I still, I'm still doing mopeds. I got this garage full of parts. Dude. So yeah, I think it was wet that actually turned me around. And so there was no prospecting period. I think because like I said, I think it was kind of, if you had been in mopeds for long enough, it's like, what's the purpose? So there was no fanfare at all, which is why I kind of, I look back fondly on the ACR initiation because I was like, here I am. Hi guys, group me, entered.
Yeah. That's hilarious. So you've been in wet for right around 2 years, year and a half then, or?
That was end of last year. So not even that long.
Right on.
If it was even that, yeah.
You said you left Austin. You moved. Where did you move back to LA at that point, or did you move back to San Francisco, or just California? Where'd you go after Austin?
After Austin, I had to have a humbling experience. I had to move back. My parents had just moved to San Diego,
Okay.
which I've never lived in before, and they moved out of the Bay Area to San Diego.
Yep.
And at that point, Kristen and I were just barely making ends meet in Austin. And the thing with Austin is like, it's a pretty small town. So if you haven't been there for a long time, you don't have connections, then you have to be basically like headhunted or like very outstanding at what you do to get any job. And that includes like a barista, like anything. Because there's basically a waiting list. And the people that are connected in the town that have been there all the time for their whole lives, they get to the front of that line as they should. And people that are kind of transplants, we found out like there just isn't enough work to go around as fast as that city is growing. So that was our experience anyway. I mean, we weren't coming from the tech sector like with a job in hand. We were just sort of like trying to make it work. So it didn't work. And I had to move to San Diego back with my parents for the first time in at that 12 years.
It's great, isn't it? I had to do that too, like 2008 market crash.
Yes.
Just out of school.
Was rough too.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Got to live with mommy. It was fucking rad.
Well, it is sort of rad because you miss your parents. And when you're an older, so I got to turn 30. Is that right? Yes. I got to turn 30 living with my parents. And that was a very interesting experience. Not how I had seen my life going at all. But at the same time, like having been able to do that at all just shows like how, what kind of like a safety net that I have that a lot of people don't have. So I am thankful for it. And I do realize that it's like, as much as I can be like, turn 30 with the folks, like it actually is like a blessing to have that. I worked in San Diego. Kristen found some jobs. She has a degree in graphic design. So we made enough to pay rent and then stayed there for like, I want to say like 6 to 8 months. And then we moved back for her for the first time to Los Angeles to find more work. And
right on.
So ever since then, so this must've been 2013 that we moved to LA, beginning of 2013. So I've been here in LA since, and everything has worked out.
No, did you ride much in San Diego? Like, were Los Chupacabras still a thing at that point? Or
I didn't know. I didn't even know the San Diego chapter of Los Chups until I heard your podcast.
Yeah. Which is funny because the person who I talked about at the beginning of the podcast, Marie, her mom, who recently passed, sorry about that.
Right.
Her mom and dad live in San Diego, and like she knew the original chapter. And
really?
and her dad has their numbers still, like, which is amazing. Like she rode with them and everything else, which is rad. And like David's super nice guy.
They're still around.
No, they're not. Like they sold a lot of their stuff. I know David picked up a lot of the bikes from them.
David's great.
Chapter. Yeah. Super nice guy. I can't give that guy enough props and respect. And David, I am coming out this spring when Rona settles down, when it's
February, sweet, hit me up.
Well, dude, when February in Minnesota, when it's fucking 30 below and I'm going nuts, I'm gonna spend a long weekend in LA. So, but anyways, back to you, my guy. You're in LA, you bounce out. I want to start talking about, what was that?
You had mentioned San Diego. I do want to make a brief aside about the San Diego scene, because I did get, for the first time ever, to kind of catch a glimpse of that. When I was in SF, I got to meet the moped heads out of San Jose and the Cupertines out of Cupertino. A lot of the smaller crews, the road gnomes, were just coming up. I think I sold my bike to like a road gnome. I don't remember, but I've always loved the real small tight gangs, just outside of like MA official, or like even kind of like not even really involved in like rallies and stuff. So when I lived in San Diego, even briefly, I got to meet the skunks, which people have mixed feelings about the skunks. I think they're great. They threw one of the coolest fucking rally ideas that I have ever heard of or been to. There was a storm drain in San Diego, and luckily it doesn't storm very often. This was in summer, I believe. So there was like no chance of storm.
Yeah.
but this thing was big. You could ride through it on a moped, the Storm Drain. And the guy that founded the Skunks and basically was the Skunks was this guy, Adam. And he's a super nice guy, generally misunderstood, I think, with the moped community. He sort of had a falling out with mopeds in general, which I think is regrettable. But at the time, he was like super gung-ho. He was like, we're a crew. We're called the Skunks. We have a logo. I don't know that there was like 5 of them or something, but basically Adam did all the work. So he decided, he's like, I'm throwing this rally. And he threw this rally. And I would wrench with him, like when I was in San Diego, like we would hang out and wrench. And his idea was like, we're going to drive through this storm drain and then hang out. Or like storm drains were part of it. And I was like, dude, you should, and correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, I think this was my idea, but it might've been yours. Pretty sure it was mine, but maybe not. I was like, dude, you should have a keg and pizza. Because in the storm drain, there was like at a certain point in the middle, there was like this big rectangular room.
Okay.
Is that right? Or just like a kind of like a bigger space.
Yeah.
It wasn't huge, but if you rode through it, you'd ride through one, come out, ride through another one. And then you got to a certain point, there was like this like bigger space, pitch black, except for like whatever lights you had. So he had like glow sticks and stuff. And I was like, dude, you should have pizza and a projector playing Ninja Turtles.
Awesome.
And a keg. And
I love
that's
this.
what they did.
Like, yeah, dude.
And that's what they did. And it was so great. It was the greatest idea. And I don't think that many people came to the rally. I mean, it was pretty good for for a small club rally. It was maybe like 30 to 50 people. Maybe less. But in that small space, I think there was only like 10 to 15 that actually like did the ride and like went through it. Guilty. I did not do the ride. I showed up late in a like cab, and somebody was kind enough to like let me ride their moped and like experience the tunnels.
Yeah.
And I hung out and like drank beer and stuff. But I thought it was a really cool rally idea. It was really well orchestrated. And I thought Adam deserved like a ton of credit for that, because that's the kind of stuff that I love about moped subculture stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, guess what I did this weekend? I rode through the sewers, storm drains.
Yep.
And I watched Ninja Turtles on the wall of the sewer eating pizza, drinking out of a keg. Like, how cool is that shit? It's so good. But the Choops were not around when I was in San Diego, and the Wingnuts were the other crew. I'm not quite sure what they're doing these days.
And that's one thing I'm learning more and more is these non-official gangs. And like, I don't have a hat in the race. Like, I think MA is a great thing, and I understand why people want to be a part of. And I think Moped Army is a necessity for moped culture. But I can also, me being a pissed off punk rock kid, like understanding not wanting to be a part of that. I get that, and I've been on rides with both MA gangs and MA non-official gangs. I mean, and I'm a nobody, so like, if people want to be a part of, that's rad. If people don't want to be a part of, that's just as rad. I mean, do your thing, as they always say. But yeah, so you did the San Diego thing. You made your way up to LA. Did we freeze up for a second? Maybe.
I think I'm.
So yeah, you did that sewer ride with the Ninja Turtles. I mean, did you? How was Donatello, by the way?
That would have been like the even greatest if like people had actually like dressed up as Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
But it was sort of like one of those things that like, if someone had come to you in your childhood and like pitched that idea to you, you would have mind blown. How do we do this?
Yeah.
And it was almost like an opportunity to like actually, put to practice the dream you've had forever. It was great. It was so cool. And yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, you keep on talking, my guy. I interrupt. That's what I do.
Well, before my connection froze, like I love the non-MA gangs, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But for the reason that like, I think partially there's like a freedom when you have smaller rallies and like smaller clubs to get away with like way more interesting things. Like even back in the creature rides, like some of the best ones were like these like clandestine rides that we would go on with, like, it wasn't a full Moped Monday. We had to keep the numbers low, and we would go over like all the pedestrian overpasses. And it was a really hairy ride, but like you couldn't do it with a rally because you can't do it with 50 people, 300 people. Like there's no way. But what I love about the smaller clubs that know intimately like the back of their hand, like their area, is they have all these cool ideas for these amazing, really subculture rallies. And I've always been a big fan of that. And I like the Woolly Bullies were kind of my first non-MA club experience at the old Latebird rallies in LA, when I was like totally a noob, sucked at riding mopeds, didn't know how to fix them if they broke down, was scared of riding them, like going down twisties. Like I wasn't a good rider at that yet. And I remember like I had a breakdown in LA, and Mike and Jose from the Bullies immediately pulled off, noticed that I was in distress. I'm just broken down, but me and Andy Moped Head were on the side of the road on Highway 1. And they were like, "Hey, what's up? What's going on?" I was like, "I think we both seized." It's like, "Oh, okay, let me check." And they helped us out diagnosing, and they came to the same conclusion. And, "Oh, shoot. Well, we don't have any parts here. Should we get you some beers while you wait for the rally, fan?" Like, "Oh, sick, dude. Yes, yeah. Thank you. And a pack of smokes if you can." And, you know, that was my first taste of the Woolly Bullies. And I thought they were great. I thought they were like the tightest little crew, the nicest guys and girls. Like there was always like a rivalry between them and the MA official Latebirds. And I didn't quite understand it because I didn't live in LA back then. I lived in SF. But since we were creatures and we were like really tight with the Latebirds, I think it was always kind of assumed that we would be on their side, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
On the Latebird side. And I just found myself really gravitating more to the Woolly Bullies. I just thought they were like more cohesive, more friends with each other than just like a club for a club's sake. And when I moved back to LA from San Diego, the Latebirds had kind of disbanded formally, which is a bummer. And shortly thereafter, Choke, which was the main moped shop here in LA, run by Jeff, closed down, which is the biggest bummer.
Yeah. And I heard of Choke, and like I had Carrie on a couple, 3-4 weeks ago, and she learned about Choke. And I didn't, again, me being still new and learning this back history, like I didn't know what it was. And then I did a little research. I'm like, oh, I wish I could have asked 1,000 questions about that. But like, do you know a little not to detract from your story that much, but like, do you know a little history of Choke at all? Or
I don't know the deeper history. So I like in comparison to how long Myron's has been around, I don't know what year Choke started. I do know that the very first Latebird rally, Flockyau won, Choke was there, and it was a business. It's also in a pretty hip district of LA. It was a pretty large storefront. It had like a big back area. It was a shop and a Tomos dealership. So the owner, Jeff, is one of the greatest dudes. He now owns a pinball bar.
Nice.
With some people from the Seattle moped scene here in LA. But it was basically a service shop and a Tomos dealership. And they preferred to work on Tomoses because that's kind of like, that was their bread and butter. Yeah. But Jeff's just kind of like a whiz, and he was able to like just work on anything. They had a mechanic, Nick. He was also really good at mopeds. And it was also a place that you could just hang out. And for a while they had a coffee shop in the back. They always had like a beer vending machine, you know. It's like a place you could just hang out and chill, and people would like show up on their mopeds to get a spark plug, and you could talk to them and go on a ride. It was a really, really great commodity to have in any city. All the rallies in LA would have a Choke stop at least one of the days, if not all the days. And if it wasn't the meetup spot, you know, it was kind of a huge resource to have. And I understand why he couldn't keep it running. Like that neighborhood, like got really hip, gentrified as fuck. And Tomos stopped importing.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of like how they were, I think, how they were keeping the lights on is like selling new Tomoses and then fixing those. You don't make a lot of money on fixing an old Puke. So
No.
Jeff said he sold it all off, and or he sold his inventory, not all of it, but there was a big week-long sale of choke, which was kind of sad but also good because you could like kind of get some tools if you were there early enough, and like they had all these wheels and like fenders and like all the stuff that they no longer needed, and it was going to go to the metal scrappers if you didn't grab it. So I definitely came up on some stuff, and just also to help them out, like here's some cash, like best of luck in your next venture. Which so not having choke really put a damper on the LA moped community because there was no longer like a hub for it, because that was the place where you would meet new people, or even people that were just interested. They would go to choke and be like, tell me about mopeds, I've heard of these, should I get one? So lacking that, and I think that was kind of a catalyst for when Nicole and I came up with the idea for Moped Workshop LA, because you didn't really need it before, because you always had like a mechanic you could take to, and even for just advice, and like Carrie's podcast with you, like she got free advice like out front, and I think she was talking about Brian Warrington is the tall late bird she was talking about.
Okay.
I know she couldn't recall his name, but Brian was a pretty great dude, and there was always people just hanging out there, and if you were just in front, they would come out to look at your bike no matter what, because they're just interested. And if you said like, hey, it's doing this and this, you'd get like 2 or 3 opinions on it, and you'd be a little closer to fixing it. So it was a big bummer when that left, and I know it coincided a little bit with the Late Birds not being a club anymore. So it felt like there was a vacuum in LA, but it turned out, the Woolly Bullies had been going strong that whole time. And that's a really fascinating club. And you've done a great job. You've interviewed a lot of LA moped riders, by the way.
Dude, know what the thing about it is, to be honest with you? I've had such good luck in the past 2 months with recommendations, and the recommendations recommending people, and then names get kicked up, and then I ask them, and plus like the West Coast fascinates me because there's this huge, like that Rocky Mountain divide is a real fucking thing, as I always say, because like I like to think I know the Midwest scene halfway decent, and I know that Southeastern scene a little bit, and like I'm gonna get up to New York a little bit more, but like I've just somehow been interviewing the hell out of the West Coast lately, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's cool. I kind of like it. It's almost like you're doing it like segment by segment as like
it's weird coincidences how it's all working. Now I'm gonna have like a run probably of the Northeast corridor, it seems like, cool. But whatever.
Where are you based out of again?
St. Paul, the right side of the river, St. Paul, Minnesota.
Okay.
So, everybody talks about Minneapolis, but like I'll put this out there right now. I'm not one to throw shade. I'm not one to talk shit, but St. Paul is 10 times better to ride than Minneapolis.
No shit.
This is why. Minneapolis was built on a grid system, which is straight. What sucks to do on mopeds? Ride straight. St. Paul is an old city, and like the great thing about St. Paul, we have all the fresh pavement. So we're an old city with no straight roads with fresh pavement. It is so much fun to ride in St. Paul right now. It's still one of my favorite cities to ride.
What are the clubs out there?
You got Casserolers, which have their Thursday meetups, which are freaking rad as hell. Casserolers.
I didn't know. I thought Casserolers were in Minneapolis.
They are. They meet up Thursdays, but it's like it's right across the river. So for me, it's a 15-20 minute moped ride, which is all right.
I meant like St. Paul specifically, because like I actually know some Casserolers that I love.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I love them all too. Like St. Paul specifically, there's no moped clubs. There's a bunch of moped riders over here, which is like weird. Like they're springing up in the last year and a half, I've really noticed. And like there's the OG himself, Maze. He lives over here, and like Maze is so awesome. Like he'll just randomly chime into me, and I'll randomly chime back at him. Like Maze was a huge resource for me, especially like my first year of mopeds, and I still harass him for knowledge here and there. But like, Yeah, Maze. I can't thank Maze enough for how patient he is with me when I text at him, as he always says, and then I generally figure it out.
Now, am I getting this wrong? It's been a while, but I feel like Mays was one of the, if not the inventor of the E50 roller bearing clutch. Was he, or did he just make them?
He made them. Like, that's the
I
thing.
have one of his.
Yeah. Maze is rad, and that's the thing about Maze. Like, he is a ninja, because you never know. You never know with Maze. Like, that's my experience, at least. Like, he doesn't, like, he'll talk, like, you ask him questions, he'll answer it. Like, he's awesome as it, like, some people will talk about what they've done or where they've been, or blah blah blah. That's not Maze's style. I mean, like, super great dad, super good husband, like, super. If he can help you out, he will. If he can draw you a map how to figure it out, he will. But, like, he doesn't throw himself out there, which is a very admirable trait he has, I think, because I know a lot of what he has done for the moped community, and I think it's a lot of great things he's done. But, like, yeah, that's my little thank you to Maze right there.
Good. Yeah. He deserves it. I think he was more active on the forums several years back when I was as well, and I've corresponded with him quite a bit. I'm embarrassed because I don't know if I've actually met him in person. So sorry, Maze, if I did at a rally and I'm completely blanking on it. But I feel like we were mostly correspondence on MA, and I definitely bought a clutch belt from you, and it still is running.
But that, again, that's Maze. I didn't even know he did clutch bells up until probably 6 months ago when I was watching Travis' tutorial video on Pinball 3, which we kind of talked about a little bit, your experience with pinball. And, you know, because that's my big fascination right now, because we'll just say I'm doing Baker. I want to be a part of Baker's Dozen next year. There's some other things in the work. Oh yeah, dude. Like, what was your experience on Pinball 3? I know we're kind of jumping all over. Yeah, we're jumping all over, and all that stuff right now. So yeah, you talked about your experience a little bit with pinball. How'd you get involved in that? Like, what was it like? Yeah, I always find that fascinating when people, because it's that type of stuff is not for that guy we talked about earlier in the podcast that, like, just wants to be a part of the scene and just doesn't, like, you know, they want to hang out, they want to meet up, they want to do this, that, or anything. Like, the pinball and endurance, anything, it doesn't matter what subculture you're in of motorsports, like, endurance is a whole different mindset. So how did that even become on your radar?
Well, so I tracked Pinball 1 and 2 because I thought they were such a cool idea. Like, wow, what a great idea. What a cool thing to happen to the culture. But both of those were a little too far out for me. I haven't recently been able to, like, rally as much as I used to, or take off as much time from work. It's kind of the big thing. So when it was announced that pinball was going to be happening all through the West Coast, I said, I have to take this opportunity. I haven't been to a rally in so long, unless it was local, the Bowling's rallies. I feel like I'm slipping and I want a change. And actually, prior to pinball, I had almost quit mopeds for like the umpteenth time.
Yeah.
I had very few. I think I might have just had one. I had sold Kristens. I had sold. Yeah. So I didn't have. I was kind of out of the moped scene. I was hanging out with the bullies. I was like, hey, I want to do this pinball thing. And they already had a team. Like, Max Mojo was doing it with somebody else. And the rest of, like, Dirty Danny, who is so great and has the greatest moped shop. That's personal and not like joke, but his backyard is basically a moped shop. It's insane.
Yeah, it's awesome whenever you walk into that situation.
It's wild. It's like, holy shit, you have so many parts and frames and shit. But I had mentioned it to them, and I didn't really have like an LA team, but what I did have was 3 other mopeders. One was Matthew Carberry from the Creatures, who was like the newest creature and the youngest. He was like a decade younger than me. The other was Matt Angelieri, who was in the local Heroes back in the day, which was an MA official crew. I want to say it was in New Jersey somewhere. Both of whom I had seen at rallies and really enjoyed their company. And we got to talking. The three of us sort of convinced each other to do it as a team. 3 guys that were out of mopeds, very rusty. Even at our peak, we were never like the top mechanics or the best riders, you know, but basically we were all sort of bored with our jobs and wanted, and, you know, I think Matt Carberry was maybe coming off of like a bad breakup, and Matt Angelieri had just moved, and like, we all had our reasons, and we were like, wow, let's put our efforts into this to like maybe turn our lives around a little bit, or like give us something to like do and think about. And none of us lived in the same area.
Okay.
So we came up with a plan. We're like, okay, we've never done this before. Like our platform is going to be E50, because we all know that.
Yep.
Dumb platform, by the way.
I was gonna say, how were your clutches for you there, bud?
Yeah, dumb platform. We're like, oh, we'll just do piston port. Like, you know, we'll basically build the same, because the rules were, you know, 2 bikes, 3 people, only 2 riders per bike, but you could kind of switch off with the rider at first.
Yeah.
So Matt A he had a maxi frame. That was his thing. He was going to build a maxi. I had a Free Spirit frame that I gotten for free. I was going to build a Free Spirit. And what's interesting about Pinball Run 3 is it basically led me to getting back into mopeds in the way that I am now. If I hadn't done that, I would not have learned I would not have been forced to learn as much as I now know about mechanics. It was basically like a crossroads. And if I had not done Pinball Run 3, I think I would have just continued riding motorcycles and scooters and been happy. But I decided to do Pinball Run 3, and I am so happy that I did, because the 3 of us built our bikes, and it was a mad scramble. For me, I had help from Dirty Danny and the Woolly Bullies. Like, I would be after work, I would be at Danny's place, bike on the lift, getting their help doing things that I hadn't done before, like putting sealed bearings in the rear wheel and stuff that I had read about on MA and I knew conceptually how to do it, but I didn't have a garage. I didn't have tools. And so they were kind enough to like help me out with this. In fact, Dirty Danny even built me this amazing like chopper seat for the Free Spirit that went up way high in the back. He welded it for me. I still have it. It's so cool. So my concept was like, oh, it's an endurance run. I'll make the most comfortable bike that I can. That's got to be the key. Matt A, who was building the other frame, was like, I'm going to build a racy bike because we got to win. So they're very different platforms. In terms of the frame. And then the motor we did was way underpowered. Oh God, way underpowered. I didn't realize how many hills were in Seattle. And as busy as I was with work, I was able to take the time off for the run, but not for like, I didn't put the time in I needed ahead of time, and I learned a lot. So I built an E50. Matt Carberry built an E50 like sans frame, just like as an extra swap in. And then Matt A built an E50 and his frame. And so we were like exchanging texts and calls and kind of making sure we were all in the same boat with what we were building. And it was like Bing carb, boss pipe, like your most basic thing. And we thought, 1, we don't have any money, so this is the way we can do it. 2, this is a very simple setup, so hopefully it'll be not prone to any problems. I didn't even get my bike finished. I got to Seattle and I started working on it at Magic Touch. Thank you guys at Magic Touch I love those dudes, by the way.
It seemed like a lot of people, just with Travis's video, a lot of people weren't prepared. Like, and I showed
my bike, it didn't run.
Like I showed when I was doing this computer, I have my brother-in-law, Glenn Bryan, is a very talented programmer. Like if you've been to Wendy's recently and seen their digital menus, that's him who programmed them.
Nice.
Like I put on that Pinball 3 video Travis did, and he's like, and he's again, very smart individual, planner, engineer. He's like, how are people not prepared for a cross-country race? I'm like, dude, it's mopeds.
It's mopeds. Well, I was woefully underprepared in terms of mopeds. And since that, I've learned so much, and I would have done it so differently. But I'm glad that I had the opportunity to learn it.
Mm-hmm.
What I did instead was at the same. I'm biffing on the account name, but for a while there was an Instagram account. It still exists, but it hasn't posted in a while. Of moped portraiture. Do you know who this is that I'm talking about?
I think everybody's going to run and find us now, but
gosh, why can't I remember it? I hate this when it happens on a podcast. I'm not going to look it up, but
don't worry about it.
They would come around to different cities and they would set up like a white backdrop, seamless, and they would just like take anybody that showed up. It became like a little mini party, and people would come up with their mopeds, and you would like pose with your moped, and they would take like really good, for lack of a better term, like glamour shots. And Carrie actually hosted it at her apartment in LA when they came in town. And I had this idea that I wanted to do a fundraiser for our trip, because we had the money to like get the mopeds, but we were all broke. And at the time I was out of a job because I was working seasonally in film.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had some savings, but I was like, oh, we really need we need a rally truck. Like, we need something in case we break down, and none of us had one. So when I got my shots done, I was like, hey, have you seen the cover of Dennis Rodman's autobiography, Bad as I Want to Be? It's him on a motorcycle, I think, and he's naked, and he just has like a basketball over his junk and like some basketballs around. I was like, I want to recreate that with me on a moped, and instead of basketballs, I want to use helmets.
Awesome.
So I got naked in this like photo shoot. I used my own helmet for my junk, by the way, and then other helmets scattered around. And I was like, I want to do a fundraiser where if you donate, I think it was $50, then I would like send you a print of this.
I was going to say, are you going to send them nudes or something?
Basically like a calendar style nude. And I think I talked to both the Matts and was like, maybe trying to get them to, if like the three of us did it, but spread out. It's hard to figure out. So I did my first and only GoFundMe. And, another huge regret is I think I had 5 people total that actually did want to get the print.
Mm-hmm.
People I knew, like friends.
Yeah.
And I never got those prints done. Oh, what an asshole.
Yeah.
Fucking asshole. I still owe it to him. One of these days I'll get that print done.
That's a hard thing about making those commitments, dude. Like I'm good for you for at least having the gumption to do a GoFundMe. Like certain things here and there, like, oh, GoFundMe would work. I always have the fear nobody's going to give me any money and shoot my self-esteem even lower. But you had people.
It was I feel you on that. I felt a little cringy doing it, which is why I wanted to give somebody, I wanted to have like a reason to do it, like a take-home thing. As it turned out, most of the donations were like under 50, and some of the ones that were 50 did not want to have, they did not want me to send that print, which I don't blame them for. But I do owe Kirsten, if you ever listen to this, I owe you one. A couple other people, I owe you guys. One of these days, you're going to get a random message from me asking for your address.
Yeah.
But it made, I wasn't looking for a lot of money. It wasn't like the good GoFundMes are like the people that have accidents, which I love MA for like promoting those, and everybody should donate to those because you never know when you're going to be in that scenario. And you've been there, Jim, like you've been in an accident a couple times. So like, that's so important. This was sort of a frivolous one, and I understood that. And so I wasn't expecting a lot. We got enough to rent a U-Haul or rider or something so that we had like a truck for our breakdowns. And the only one they had was like a big box van. So we became, because I didn't take the fucking time to do it right before I got to Seattle, my bike was the first to break down. And maybe not the very first. I think some didn't even make it off the finish line, but.
And I just wanted to pause you for a second. We're talking about GoFundMe's. If anybody's still listening to this podcast, thank you so much for this late into it. And I love this long format we're going. I do want to bring up a GoFundMe that's recently been posted in the moped community. Eric's ALS diagnosis, organized by Electra. Basically a member, I believe he's QCB Legion, a member of Legion, was diagnosed with ALS. Family man. I do not know this person, but like, only thing I've heard about Eric is nothing but positive things. He has a bucket list thing he's trying to do. He's trying to ride across the country on two-wheel vehicles. I have little to no information, but I figured this might be a good time to talk about that. Go check it out. I know a lot of people on the East Coast are supporting that. They've smashed through a couple of their goals. I donated to something else. Timo's fundraiser on the next moped paycheck I get. This is my money's going to go towards this. Yeah, I feel very lucky that you talked about GoFundMe as my accents. My family is very math wise, we'll say. And I had, I was lucky enough not to need outside assistance after my accident. But nobody feel ashamed to ask for help. That's what the community is here for. And I just wanted to chime in with that a little bit. But yeah, so sorry for interrupting you, but it was for a good cause, if you will.
No, I'm glad you brought that up. That's kind of what I was thinking of in the back of my head when I mentioned that. You don't see it very often on the Moped Army General Forum, but when you do see it, take a look. Mm-hmm. These are not these are actually good causes. These are families that could really help with just a little bit from the community each time. Yep. If you have anything to give, this is the stuff to give to, not a jerk like me just trying to do Pinball Run 3. Fully support that. And thanks for bringing that up. I don't know if we have like the website that we can link
I
to
will post something on the Second Chance Moped podcast on our pages we have. Like I said, I don't know this individual, but my friends vouch for him and they say he's nothing but rad guy. And he's got new people in the moped, so he's good and thumbs up in my world. So
yeah, Legion is tight. I know Danny pretty well, Danny Provincia, that's kind of started that group, and so it's got to be good people. Please help them out.
But back to simpler and happier subjects. Pinball 3. What'd you guys do for a chase vehicle then?
So with the donation money, we spent all of that on renting a truck, and because it's I think it was like 7 days and a lot of mileage. Mm-hmm. So we rented a truck, and anybody that did donate to me, you can rest assured that your money went to a good place, because we became almost the de facto rally truck. Awesome. Everyone that broke down, our motto was like, leave no moped behind. So I was bummed because personally, out of my own negligence, was not able to like ride a moped down the coast. I didn't make it very far, but what I did get to do was help out all the riders that broke down, get to know a lot of riders. There was a lot of Team Randos out there, just people that had showed up solo with just absolutely no plan. And I was happy to, I guess, in like
nobody could see Mike's face right there. Like they showed up for like a Sunday ride. Like no,
dude, it was so surprising to me. These guys had, just no support, no plan. And I was happy to jump in and be that support, like me and Matt. We were very happy to be the people that were able to do that, even though it meant that one of our bikes was down. So the other bike made it all the way down to San Luis Obispo. Unfortunately, we didn't progress past that point, but we stayed with the rides the whole way, just like swooping up vehicles as they got broken down. So the whole experience was great. Unfortunately, and for this podcast, I can't speak to what the grueling hours on the bike were like, because that was not my experience. My experience was listening to AM radio in a rider truck, typically with a couple people that I didn't know so well next to me, getting to know them, and going to the next meetup place and sort of working on bikes by flashlight. That was kind of like my experience of Pinball Run 3.
So let's hear, how long did you actually last though? Was it like a couple hours?
So outside of Seattle, there was this one, I got outside of the city limits, let's say that. And then there was this one hill straight up, and my bike just could not do it. And I have several theories for why. Most of it is just my naivete at the time. I also one of the mats wanted to use a type of oil that I'm not familiar with, and I think it was the castor oil,
Yeah.
castor bean
Castor
oil.
Okay.
And I've always used synthetic, and I've never used that stuff before. But he got it at a good price for really cheap, and we were like, okay, let's use that as our oil. And I might have mixed it wrong, honestly, because when I finally took the cylinder off that night after not being able to go up the hill at all, like pedaling it as hard as I could up the hill never ended. So
yeah,
it kept going and going and going and going. It was like a mountain pass or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how quickly I was like deemed out. But I did get the chance to like take apart the cylinder and stuff. And yeah, there was a lot of castor oil buildup on the inside. I think it was way too rich. And again, you learn. It's how you learn stuff.
Yep.
I got to wrench on Matt's bike. His bike made it over the pass. We made some modifications. And again, like his bike made it all the way into San Francisco, down to San Luis Obispo. We were working on our backup engine, trying to rebuild it, and we got the call from Matt, who was on the moped in San Luis Obispo, and he's like, "The bike just died. I don't know what it was. It just died." It was pretty late at night. We were probably 2 hours away from him, so he was like, "You know what, man? I'm right next to a bar. I'm just gonna lock this bike up, and we're out." And me and the other Matt were like, "Dude, you've earned it. Like, just have yourself a little night. We'll be there as soon as we can."
Yeah.
As an aside, I want to, for once again, thank Benji and Treats. While we were in San Francisco, they were so generous with like parts that we needed for the run. Such a pillar of the community, man. Like such nice guys. I actually want to send them this calendar print as well, just as like a fuck you joke. But
I
also
think
like
you should.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And if you make one, I'll hang one in my shop, whatever.
I'll send one to you, Jim.
Yeah, dude. I love random things sent to me in the mail. They're coming more and more frequently. And now it's just like, oh, what moped, or how the fuck did they get my address? But whatever. But so you fail, you didn't make pinball 3.
We failed in San Luis Obispo. We
and where's that to an ignorant kid from southern Minnesota? Like,
right. So
you're saying
Seattle,
this fancy Spanish word that I got some of, but
it started in Seattle, and it was supposed to end just outside of Mexico in San Diego. And so San Luis Obispo is about halfway.
Okay.
It's actually further than halfway because it's like halfway down California coastline. So we made it further than halfway, but San Luis Obispo to LA in a car without traffic is probably 2.5 to 3 hours. And LA wasn't the finish line. It was a few days later. So we were 4 days short, 3 or 4 days short of the full thing. But what was cool about it, like the whole experience, is even though it was a competition, for the most part, all the people participating were really helpful to each other. So we would pull over and try to help anytime that because I was out of the race. What the fuck do I care? But our rider wouldn't, because he had to ride the race. But for the most part, all the support teams or the people that weren't riding that day were very, very helpful to the other riders that were experiencing distress, because you're definitely allowed to fix your bike on the side of the road. And that part of it was so cool to see and so reaffirming. And Carrie was along for that, taking amazing footage and pictures of the whole process. So
it was still moped, even though it was a race, it's still mopeds where nobody really takes it that seriously. Which is awesome.
There was
we'll give it the benefit of the doubt. Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, but that's how a rally is too. Like, you're always going to find a couple people taking it too seriously. Every night, like, there was either a campsite or like a group hotel kind of thing. And even though you shouldn't, like, people would kind of have a couple beers and just be like, oh God, I'm exhausted. Like, got to get up so early tomorrow to get to start. But a lot of camaraderie and a lot of like, oh, you did really great today. And waiting for making sure the last people got in safely. Everyone cared for each other. It was not cutthroat. And from my understanding, that's kind of how the whole that's how the whole series was the whole time, and it's also how Baker's is.
Yeah. So we've dabbled in it. Let's talk about the LA workshop where you're at now. I believe are you guys in session right now? No. Okay. But why don't you
No,
talk about the foundation, everything, blah blah blah. Let's talk about LA workshop.
yeah, and that's a good segue because doing Pinball Run 3 really highlighted my deficiencies in mopeds.
Mhm.
I kind of at that point I could swing a wrench. I knew what tools I needed for at least for an E50. I knew how to rebuild one real quick, but there were some gaps, and it really like highlighted that for me. But it also kind of reminded me about how fun it was to work on bikes and how much I kind of had missed it when I was just riding motorcycles and scooters that just did what they were supposed to do. So a couple years after Pinball 3, maybe just one, maybe two, hanging out more and more with the Woolly Bullies. Still didn't ride mopeds a ton in LA. I had a few, but I was mostly on a scooter. We had a local bar that we go to, and everybody kind of would go off work Friday, Saturday, even Thursday. And Nicole from Gaskets she's a Gasket and a bully. She's a good friend of mine, and we would hang out at the bar and just kind of talk mopeds. Mm-hmm. And she had mentioned that it was kind of frustrating sometimes that it was hard to find a good way to learn about mopeds in person. And I agreed with that because even though I've had those opportunities in the past, 77 shop and SF and Lester shop, Austin Mopeds, here in LA, like Choke was gone, and it was sort of, you didn't have that many options. And as a female rider and wrencher, she was like, yeah, I kind of want to, it would be great if there was like just kind of some other way to like teach people or for me to learn too, because she's always trying to learn more and more about wrenching. Like she's great like that. She like, wants to really know how to like make her bikes run all the time, and it doesn't come naturally to her either. So we talked about that, like how it didn't come naturally to me. It took a very long time. I've been in mopeds and bikes for a long time, and my current knowledge is like probably what some of the creatures that taught me when I first got into it is, that's a pretty long learning curve. And the more we talked about it, the more we thought maybe we were in a unique position to be able to make a class that could cater to people that were maybe a little bit intimidated by learning this stuff, because there's a lot of good information out there, but if you don't know the terms, then you don't know what you're looking for. And we all know how the forums go. Like, depends on the day you post and like who answers it, like what kind of question you're going to get, or answer, I should say. And it is intimidating. And it's also intimidating personality wise for some people to admit that they don't know something, or to feel like they're being talked down to, or like pushed away. Like, let me do it for you real quick. Yep. And I think especially for female riders, they maybe experience that more often, where they're sort of like told to step aside.
And that's something for myself, I can honestly say I am consciously working on not doing, because I'm still a gorilla caveman, let me do this for the woman thing. And like, generally they probably know more than me. So like, and I'll be the first one to admit that. Like, it's whenever I'm around somebody who's new, I gotta always ask myself, how big is your ego today, Jim? Because they probably know a lot more than what you give them credit for. So
no, that's the hardest part is because it's harder to explain something than to do it. I feel like. So that's where we were coming from, is that it's harder to explain and sit back and let someone else do it than it is to sort of be like, oh, you want this to work? Like, let me just do it real quick. Cause I can't explain it to you, but I can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's where a lot of us are at. Like, at least I can say, like we talked earlier with myself, like I can do a lot of stuff, but I can't explain a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And I'm the same way. And I think you interviewed Maya. Like, Maya's great. she is so down to work on her bikes and has quite a few at this point. Always gung ho to like do a wrench session and learn more and like figure stuff out on her own too. Like, you know, she's not one of the people that would show up to the shop and like need constant, you know, like, what do I do next? Like she likes to like dissect it and get into it. But she just wasn't having enough opportunities to like learn at her pace, and everyone has their own pace. And Nicole had the same issue, I believe, where, you know, she needed some fundamentals first so that she could kind of wrap her full head around it. And a lot of moped mechanics is like high speed. It's like side of the road shit. So it's just like, what do I do right now to get this working?
First you buy a lock and then you call Uber and then you go pick it. No, that's I'm the worst roadside. I'm the worst roadside mechanic now. I don't even fucking try. I'm like, oh, not working. Look at two things. No plug, check gas, check plug. No, we're going home.
Roadside is one of my absolute favorite things. And I think it's one of the things I wanted to be able to teach is like, you know, with mopeds, there is roadside mechanics you can do. A lot of bikes, there's nothing you can do, but
very
with
true.
Mopeds, because there's like so few tools really that you need to like really get into it. Like if you just have a couple things, like you can make a lot of changes.
If you have a 10 and a 13, you're 98% there.
You're pretty good shape. Yeah. Deep 10. So that was the brainchild behind it. It was basically Nicole saying like, you know what, it would be cool if there was like another resource, a way for people to learn mopeds, like in a less high stress environment. And I took it as like, I would like to learn more myself, but I would also like, the best way to learn is to like learn how to teach others. So I had to do a ton of reading. Like I knew these things for the most part, abstractly, but in order to teach it to somebody, you really got to know it all the way. Otherwise I felt like a fraud.
Yeah.
So I did some like real deep reading back into like 2-stroke manuals of the past and like, you know, Bell Jennings and like, you know, not deep. I'm not some of the greats out there like Graham Motzing and like some of the other guys that like really know this stuff. I'm not an engineer, and I will be the first to say that. What I am is a guy that didn't know shit and eventually knew enough shit to be able to fix his bike and make it keep running. And I had to break down enough times to learn that. And I had a couple times you break down all by yourself and you really want to know that. So Moped Workshop LA was sort of like a solution to that problem, where it was like, hey, it's a free class. That was the one thing. Like we never wanted to charge anybody for this class. So we did a raffle one time. We like raffled off a Tomos. We did some other stuff like to raise some money for some treats parts that we needed. But by and large, the idea was like anybody that wants to can walk in. You can be a guru. You can be a brand new person with no bike at all. Please come to our class. Tell us what you want to learn, and we'll try to teach it to you. We have like a basic syllabus, but it was basically us coming up with it at a bar. Like we were trying to figure it out. So year one, we worked on a Tomos and kind of like everything was sort of a class type thing where we would like talk about concepts. I think I mentioned that we like had people take carbs apart just to get their hands on stuff. That seemed to be the most effective one. So for year two, which was last year, we decided, hey, let's get a bike, make it a maxi, easy.
Yeah. E50 platform. Yeah.
E50 platform shows you everything. It shows you the best part is the clamshell. You take it apart. You're like, do you see what each thing does? Every moped is this, every engine is this, but this is the most simplistic way that I know to show you what all of these parts do. So we had the whole class, and our motto was like, because it was Mike, and Nicole, me, Mikey, and Nicole. It was no mics touch the bikes. That was the motto.
That's awesome.
So we were like, let's strip this maxi down. Here's the tools that you need. Go to town. If you have any questions, ask us. So they tore the bike down. The class did. One of my favorite members of the class came a few days into it, Ethan, and he didn't have a bike, had never had a moped or a motorcycle, had just heard about the class, maybe from Instagram, I'm not even sure, and was like, it just seemed like something cool to learn.
That's
And
awesome, dude.
that dude was so rad. Like, just was like, thought about, because I would always kind of give like a spiel at the beginning, like, here's what we're going to do today, really quickly, overview, let's get into it. And each time, like, it has some really, really good questions, like coming from someone that knew, I mean, very smart guy, probably did some engineering and stuff, but because he had the right questions, but didn't know much about mopeds. So it was really interesting having to ask his questions because they were almost coming from like a different perspective. But yeah, so over the course of the year, we were able to, take this bike apart, rebuild it, kit it, port it, pipe, carb tune. Each time we would have to figure out what we were going to do for the next class and like what would be the best way to do it. Teaching people how to use Dremels, how to use, and I should definitely shout out Lucky Wheels Garage in Los Angeles. It's now just a motorcycle shop. I say just, it's a good motorcycle shop. Take your motorcycle there. But last year and the 5 preceding years, it was a DIY sort of like community shop. So if you paid a monthly fee, you could just use all the tools.
Yeah.
So we actually had access to lifts. Like these mopeds were on lifts. We had real tools, and they let us use that space for free because they were such nice guys. And they even started like stocking some like moped only parts. So like people like a Choke Junior, like for LA. Yeah. So we were able to like use the whole shop. And the whole point, like I'm saying, is like, I wanted to be able to reach people that were like me when I first got into mopeds that didn't know a carb from a cylinder, and just give them the fundamentals in a very low pressure way, in a way that like they'd be conducive to how they wanted to learn. So it's like, I'm not shaking a carburetor at you, like telling like a diagram, but take it apart, look at it, put it back together, clean it. Let's talk about it and talk about how it works. Show them how an E50 works, how it transmits power from the cylinder through the crank all the way to the final drive gear. Kind of go through what the terminology is, and then go through best practices about how to use tools. There's kind of like fundamentals. It was never like, here's how to build the best moped ever, or here's the only way to do it. And I would always try to like color the lectures. I call them lectures. I hate that word. I would always try to like color that with like, there's lots of ways to do this. Here's the best way I know.
Yeah.
And if there was subjects, which there are plenty that I didn't know about, I would try to bring in like outside people. So we had Jeff from Choke come in for like a Tomo specific session.
That's rad.
And we've had people teach timing and like port timing, which is like which is a little bit above what we were trying to do, but
yeah. And I'm still learning about that. I've got my buddy Lee, who's another. I always surround myself, and I think you're a lot the same. I always like to surround myself with smarter people than myself. And Lee is teaching me about we're going to have a little porting party, and I'm actually supposed to go out to Graham Matzo Balls or Matzing's farm here sometime this winter. Yeah. Graham's a super nice guy. Him and I chat each other. Yeah. He lives about an hour from me. So like him and I chat at each other a couple times a week. And like, again, all you mopeding old lore, like everybody's having kids, and Graham's little boys are rad, and his wife's super nice, and like one of these days we'll get together. But that port timing and understanding how, because like I'm a person, I'll be the first to admit, I know how to slap a motor together. And like my buddy Lee said, a lot of people don't understand why the motor goes together, and there's a whole theory and principle behind that. And Lee's it's just weird how this whole moped community works and how we all meet each other and how we all know each other. He's best friends with Andy, who was on the podcast, and I never knew this. And it's weird world we live in mopeds. So how was that, trying to teach people with less than we'll just say less than a year of mopeds about port timing and stuff like that? Was that,
you can only do so much, and I think we did a lot. It was I can't remember there's a phrase for this, but basically we were doing it for ourselves. Like we thought this was a worthy cause, and we were devoting our time, Nicole, Mike, and I, and Jason as well from the Bullies, and a lot of the other boys came to support and would help out too. And a couple of times we would do like an open shop where people would bring in their bikes, and we would just try to help diagnose. But it was we were doing it for ourselves because we felt like it was worthwhile, and it made us feel good, and it felt really like community oriented. You know, you could never tell how many people would show up to a given class. It was never the same. The second year, we decided to every class you showed up to, you got a raffle ticket. And then the bike that we built, we powder coated this bike. We put a Polini on it. You know, we fucking tuned it. We built a fucking sick maxi by the end, and we were just raffled it off for free. Nice. And the raffle tickets could only be obtained by attending the classes.
That's right.
So however many classes you attended, that's how many chances you had. And the fucking irony was the dude that attended one class won. That's not even irony. I don't know what that is, but like,
no, that's like the new person at the rally winning a bike, or the person who's not really in the scene wins the bike. Like, but that shit makes me happy.
It was a good, because most of the people in that class had several bikes, and this guy Richard had just gotten one. Nicest dude. He just hadn't heard of his class. It wasn't his fault.
Yeah.
I have no animosity towards him, but it was just sort of like some of the people there, like with a bunch of tickets, were just like crestfallen.
Yeah.
But he has been ripping on that thing since that day. So he definitely deserved it. Awesome. And I'm so happy that he got it. But no, the shop closed.
Okay.
And then coronavirus happened. I say closed. It closed as a membership shop. It's now just a shop. And then coronavirus hit, so obviously we can't do anything in person. I recently kind of signed into the Instagram account because that was always Nicole's deal. And I've just been posting from what I have been doing during coronavirus. So that's like the latest stuff. Moped Workshop LA is sort of.
I was going to ask you, what is the Instagram account for that? Is it Moped Shop LA?
Yeah, it's Moped Workshop LA.
Okay.
Just one string.
Right on.
And I've just kind of been trying to help people out with bikes these days. I'm actually working on a potential moped film project.
That's awesome. I'm all and I mean, and I'll cut you off because it sounds like you're very hesitant to talk about it. And like, I'm all about moped content. Like, I know Thomas and Jason, they talk about that on Moped Monday podcast. I always feel like I'm with my dyslexia, I want to turn it around, but whatever. Dude, this is not, there's no competition in moped content. Like, I have a couple hundred listeners. I don't have as many as them, but like, you know, you say you do that, you were doing the workshop for yourself. That's why I do this. I do this for myself. And if people like it, awesome. But like, I mean, that's what it's all about. It's expanding. Can I expand the scene doing this? I don't know. I'm just a moped dork in his basement in St. Paul, Minnesota. Like that's, I love mopeds, and that's what makes me so happy. Well, even the possibility of any type of moped, you know, documentary or film or whatever, like I can't say enough to people. Go check out Travis when he puts out a new video. I know that wiring for that Hobbit was very useful for me because I liked the way he went about doing some stuff.
His Hobbit tutorials, when I finally got into Hobbits, super helpful for me as well. And in fact, like during lockdown, I thought maybe Moped Workshop LA would become sort of like some really well produced videos. I was hoping to do that. I bought some lights from Amazon and like borrowed some gear from work, like some cameras and stuff.
Yeah.
And I had them all kind of set up, and I was like working on lighting. And then the weight of quarantine and coronavirus was just too heavy. I was like, I don't have any inspiration to do this right now.
Yeah.
I just don't want to.
With that, what's riding like for you these days?
Well,
are you getting out?
My scooter got stolen, so I'm back on mopeds. That's kind of been the best. That was the best news of last year.
Yeah.
Last year. So I had a bunch of not a bunch. I had a couple mopeds that I was like slowly building. I'm a very slow builder. If it's for me, I do like, it's meticulous, man. Like it's pathological. Like I have a Hobbit that's behind me here. That I'm afraid if I move it, it'll mess up my audio, but I've been working on this Hobbit for probably 7 years. Just because I have other bikes to ride. So I'm just like, it's just like a slow thing I'm tinkering on. But the other bikes generally, like I'm not in a hurry to make them run. So because I usually have a scooter or some other bike to take me around. So my scooter got stolen. Suddenly I needed a way to get to work again. And the next closest thing that was running was one of my Maxis. So I just dove into it, and I'm back on that ZA50 train these days, like heavy
Nice.
on the ZA50. I got the factory tools. I traded an entire Urban Express for like the factory measuring tools.
Awesome.
That one of the bullies got me from Sean at Myron's. And I'm so happy to have it, because I've been building. I now have 5 ZA50s that I'm working on right now.
Oh, wow. You went deep into that rabbit hole, it sounds like.
Deep. Yes.
I got there's a new kid he lives out just a suburb, just a little east of St. Paul. He got a UPS Magnum, and like it's a little rough, but I'm like, dude, who gives a shit? Don't fucking worry about it. But he's like down the ZA rabbit hole. He doesn't know if he wants to build the motor himself or have somebody build it for him. Blah, blah, blah. And he's just like, I'm like, dude, you got a winner. Don't worry about it. You got more than one running moped. It's all right.
One thing I do want to do, speaking of ZAs, is I watched what's the YouTube channel Fixes His Shit? What's his name? Jim? No, Bill Fixes His Shit. Shoot, sorry.
That's all right.
No plug here for him, but it's a pretty good channel.
Another YouTube channel, huh? What? No.
No, it's not a podcast. It's a, it's like he works on a bunch of different bikes, and he has one moped one, or maybe two series, and one is a ZA UPS Magnum.
Awesome.
And I watched his like reassembly of the transmission, and he does a lot of things great. Like he I don't know if he vapor blasted it or what, but he got those cases so clean, all new bearings, great. But what he didn't do was do any kind of shim measuring at all. And I was just like, oh, I was like, you gotta do it on the cranks. Which is why this tool that I got was like such a big annoying thing for me. Like I tried to figure out if I could find another tool that I could use for it, or like make one, or like mass produce one. And then I finally found one. But I think what I'm going to do for the rest of this Corona year and going into next year while we're still in lockdown is try to make kind of the de facto ZA video, where it's like,
there's not a lot of content out there for them, from my understanding. I mean, I'm not a huge ZA guy, but like that's the mystery is ZAs.
Well, the problem is it's never an overhead camera view, which I always find like so aggravating, like not aggravating, but it's like, I want to see what you're doing, like I want to see like what's the guts look like. And as with any how-to video, like you inevitably like forget to say a thing or do a thing. So my idea is like, just because I have all this free time, I just want to make one that's kind of like, I've completely thought it out ahead of time. I tear a ZA down, I build a ZA up, I explain where you have to make those measurements, all the ways to do it. Because I started to worry these days, like there's not that many ZAs left in the world. I've blown up 2 myself. Like I am a guilty person. Those are gone. Like some of the parts were scavenged, but like nobody's making those cases again. So nothing against somebody that doesn't know what they're doing and blows up a ZA. It happens to all of us. But if I can do like one small thing where somebody can easily reference a video that shows them sort of all the things you need to take into consideration with shimming and tolerances, because those are never like kind of really covered on ZA videos, to make sure that there's stuff lasts even with the kit, then I will have done my duty at this age as a moped guy.
Well, that's awesome, dude. And again, I'm all about moped content. It doesn't matter. Like I'd like to see more just ride video. Like I remember seeing somebody showing like GoPro video of a ride we just got done. I'm like, I don't care. But now it's like, because it's getting wintertime in Minnesota and like we haven't been to rallies, like, oh, I just want to see anything. Like I'm just a moped nerd like that. So that's awesome. Yeah.
We have, LA weather, man. It got a little bit cold.
What it got down to 55, 60? 70? Yeah, fuck off.
Not even that cold. Rides have been weird. There's a scene change happening in LA. The bullies are kind of hibernating. You know, I think their latest prospect was Hecky, who's the greatest, but he's with LSLB right now while he's in school over there. And they just have, you know, they haven't done any group rides and stuff. I think it's an off year. It's not a rally year for them. And meanwhile, Chupacabras took up some slack. They did a couple rides early on in the pandemic. And then Cross Valley, that Maya's a part of, have been doing kind of the majority of the rides. And then there is like this new fun crew that's like kind of coalescing that I'm watching, basically through like an Instagram chat.
Nice.
That is kind of just a disparate group of young riders, younger than me, I should say, or newer to mopeds, that are, hey, you guys want to ride? It's called Saturday Night Lights. And they just kind of like hit each other up like on this chat. Like they're all just like individual moped riders that are just kind of, and I'm hoping that there's like a group forming there out of all of that. But, you know, I don't know if the idea of like a moped club still works for Los Angeles, or if that's something that people will do anymore, or if it might be like a concept that is in the past only. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting once we break out of this isolation we're all having to, especially right now, what's going on in the news the last couple of weeks with the surges. 2021 is gonna be fucking rad, dude, because I hope so. I'm such a positive person. Like, I think you're gonna be seeing, and this is just my forecasting, I'm a nobody in the moped scene, so don't put too much weight behind it. I think you're going to see some of these older clubs die off, but I think you're going to see some resurgence of like,
I hope so,
a bunch of kids like in their mid to early 20s, because mopeds aren't cheap anymore. I mean, we're kind of pricing them out. I mean, you're not finding running $100 bikes. I mean, you can find them here or there, but they're usually on a pallet or something like that. But I think you're going to see mopeds. I look at what's going on in Richmond. I look at what's going on over here in St. Paul right now, the way things are kind of shaping up, and just some outside characters around Minnesota. I just got a feeling like you're going to see this boom in mopeds again. But,
I hope so.
You know,
I hope so much.
Yeah. And things like what you're doing out in LA with the LA workshop, dude, like, keep doing your thing, dude. And I hope you're able to do it again after this Rona thing settles down.
Yeah, me too. I want to help foster new clubs, or, you know, help them learn how to work on their own bikes. And what's interesting, just real quick, is like, you know, Onyx, the electric bike?
Yeah.
There's like an Onyx group in LA. And I see the bikers zipping down my street or down
Scare
Sunset.
the fuck out of me, dude. I've seen those bikes. I won't get on one for the sole purpose. I'll never get off one, dude.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
Those things
so much
fuck so hard. Like, oh
you
my
are
God.
100% right. It's so cool. And like, hey man, there's always going to be a place for moped clubs. It's a oily, dirty thing where you get your hands dirty and you have a good time, and you can do a lot of it yourself. But there is going to become a point where like electric motors are even easier, even cheaper, and obviously way fucking better.
Yeah.
And I see that like the writing on the wall with these like Onyx rides that I see, because, you know, there's 6 or 7 dudes and they go zipping by, and it's like, you just hear the wind being cut. That's all you hear. Yeah. It's so cool. And I got no hate. I think it's hilarious. I would love there to be like a rivalry between mopeds and electric bikes, but there shouldn't be, because they're like basically the same slot.
I'm waiting for like the first electric bike gang to apply to be a part of Moped Army. Like,
that's going to be really interesting,
dude. That's good. That, like, I'm going to be on the sidelines, just like slowly clapping, like, dude.
Well, you know, Moped Army is very unstructured for the most part, but I do believe there are some random bylaws written in like 96 or whenever this fucking website came out that, you know, state what a moped is. And so unless those get updated, which I think might be down for that.
Are there bylaws like with moped?
Well, it's like what a moped is, kind of like, and then like what a club needs to do to apply, like what a club needs to, it's not a lot. But I do believe it is like a moped is like a 2-stroke from with pedals that's under 50 unless it's kitted. Like I think there's like a little spiel about what a moped is somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean to rag on
I'll
the
have to ask Simon
fleet.
someday.
Ask Simon. Get Simon on this podcast because Simon's great.
Well, I had him. He was the very first guest, and for some
yeah,
reason,
Simon. Oh, I gotta rewind and watch that shit.
well, it's only on SoundCloud. For some reason, it did load to my other formats, and that. With that, folks, I'll do a little segue here. You can find Second Chance Moped Podcast on all your lovely platforms that you find your podcasts at. There we go. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, except for that one for some reason. Spotify, SoundCloud, obviously. Just look us up. You'll find us. Google Play. I know like 4 people that religiously listen to this on Google. I didn't even know. Yeah. I'm like, okay. Rock and roll, man. No, neither have I. I loaded it to Google Play because I thought but whatever. But yeah, go rate us. Give us 5-star reviews. I'll love you forever for it. But anyways, back to mopeds and the greatness that they are. I can't thank you enough for coming on, Mike. As I always tell people, once you're on Second Chance Moped Podcast, if you ever find yourself in Minnesota for any reason, you always have place to stay at my place. And if it's not during if the Casserolers have their rally, you're more than welcome to stay at my house. I can't guarantee you any loaners. I'll have a couple bikes available.
Tyler would owe me a loaner. I feel like. That favor.
Damn right you should. I had speaking of Lee, who I talked about earlier in the podcast, he was in my basement the other day. He's like, so what are you going to do when 50 people show up to your house expecting a place to stay? I'm like, dude, I got a basement, and it's either going to be like 50 people or nobody's showing up, which either way I'm cool with. I got a big backyard. People can pitch tents too.
No, that's the beauty of the rally, man. Yeah.
Rock and roll. But again, thank you so much. Why don't you stick around? I'll talk to you for half a second after the podcast. I can't thank you enough for coming on Second Chance Moped Podcast. We had a week off, but this is going to be the longest podcast we did, which makes me happy. Mike's giving me some shit. Dude, this is one of my favorites I've done to date. But with that, Mike, I got to remind you, mopeds are dumb. Talk to you later, my guy.